this is recorded now. For those that are watching it on the screen, to help you see everybody tiled instead of someone coming in and out of the full screen, look for something called the gallery view. If you click on that gallery view, then everybody will be tiled on the screen and stay in that fixed setup. And you can use the Q&A tab to ask a procedural or a technical question, but because this is a public meeting, we cannot answer questions that directly that come on that screen. And we will, if there's a question that we can answer, we'll put an answer to it in the minutes. And we'll go from there. Please remember the questions and Q&As are not for communicating with any individual person. You know, it's everybody together. Okay. So any procedural question before we start from anybody in the room, both panelists and attendees? If anybody does, please raise your hand. Okay, give me 1 second. There's someone here. Christina, I just promoted you to a panelist, so I want to know if you can hear me. Christina, can you hear me? Christina Ibarra, who's just showed up, she's with Controller Galperin's office, and I'm trying to. Okay, let me proceed here. So if there's no question, I'm going to ask Gabe, if you don't mind, to call the roll.
Yes, sir. Brandy, absent. Hassan?
Here.
David Balin?
Here.
Jason?
Here.
Miran?
Here.
Becky?
Here.
David Lasher? Unmute.
Here.
Thank you. Lori? Absent. Assad?
Here.
Gabriel? Yes, here. Isam?
Here.
And we have a quorum.
Thank you. With that, item 4 on the agenda is a presentation by City Controller Mr. Ron Galperin on the city's financial outlook, and we are trying to coordinate this with him and his staff, so please stand by for a second. Christina, if you can hear me, you are muted. Can you unmute yourself? We cannot hear you, Christina. Mr. Galperin, I also promoted you as a panelist, so if you unmute yourself, we will be able to hear you.
I've been promoted. My gosh. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, and I can start my video.
There you are.
Great.
And I need to know which screen, how is this going to happen?
Christina is also on this, and she's the one who is going to be controlling the various slides that we hope that we will be able to share with you.
Yes, the thing is her mic is not working right now. Bear with us.
I don't know that she needs her mic necessarily to work, but certainly she needs to be able to also be promoted so that
Oh,
she
I
can share what's on her screen.
right. I did promote her to panelist, but she's not coming on. Let me see.
Let me hold on a second because she and I are in different locations. Let me text her right now.
Yeah, the controller can be speaking. Okay. I'm going to stop my share.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, Christina.
We can hear you now. Okay, great.
Thank you.
And Christina, I've disabled the share screen lock, so you can go ahead and share your screen as you wish.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Great. I think, are we ready?
The floor is yours, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much. It's a pleasure to join you this evening, albeit virtually in this fashion. And what you're doing is, I think, more important than ever right now, in that our neighborhood councils were set up so that people could have a sense of connectivity on a local level. And people would know their neighbors, and so that people on the local level have often a much better sense of what the needs are than what someone at City Hall might know. And I think that's more true now than ever before. It's interesting. I've appeared before quite a number of different community meetings and neighborhood groups and neighborhood councils in the Zoom format, and finding that many of them are actually having more attendees than they did previously. So it's an interesting and changing world, but it's been a very difficult time, as I think we all know and we all can acknowledge. Our COVID-19, than 100,000 people who have died across the nation. Unemployment has markedly increased.
Ron, you have a connection. You have a connection problem. You have a connection problem. Your screen froze, and your audio is choppy.
Oh no! Unfortunately, can you hear me now?
Not really. Okay, if Christina, can you hear me? You are still muted, but if he comes back on, I'll bring him back on.
Okay, thank you.
Are you sharing a screen, Christina? Or not yet?
Yes, I'll be sharing a screen whenever he's talking about certain resources on his website.
Okay, got it. Yes, Becky.
Are we supposed to be seeing them?
Not yet.
Or
When
just audio? Okay,
audio, and then she will share screen when it's time to share screen.
gotcha, thanks.
Testing, can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay, sorry I'm late.
no problem. Just Christina, if you can let the controller know that I'm just going to look for him on the attendee side and bring him on whenever he's back on.
Okay, thank you. Mhm.
Ah, there he is.
Aha.
Not really. There you are.
Your mic is off,
Able to
Ron.
hear me? Actually, my mic is on. Are you able to hear me now?
Yep. your screen is frozen.
Hmm.
No, you're coming in and out basically.
Maybe the mic can be
Are
on,
you
but the
able to
video
hear me
off.
at all?
Yeah, we hear you.
We can hear you partially, so let's give it a shot.
Okay. You have my apologies because
No.
are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I feel like I'm in a Verizon commercial. Can you hear me now? But I live in a hillside neighborhood, and all the internet in the neighborhood went down about 2 hours ago. So I've been operating off of this little hand device, which has not quite got the bandwidth that that I normally would have. So hopefully this lasts. I figure if I stand on one foot and maybe have a metal hanger in my other hand, that might actually help. But I don't know how much you had caught of what I was saying earlier, but as we know, it's been very tough time in Los Angeles in terms of the suffering because of COVID, in terms of the jobs that have been lost. At last count, the numbers that I had as of the end of April were that we had lost 300,000 jobs in the city of Los Angeles alone, double that for the county. And you may have seen that there were some numbers that showed on a national level that things improved somewhat in May. We're going to have to see exactly where the numbers come out, but we are probably going to be lagging in terms of the national numbers because of a longer period of social separation in Los Angeles. Also because the kind of jobs that we have are very much dependent on trade and on tourism and on the service economy. And these are some of the areas that have been hardest hit. So our recovery is going to not necessarily be the easiest or the quickest. I wish I could say it would be, but we're going to do everything that we can to move the economy along. We've also, of course, witnessed the protests after the terrible death of George Floyd, and a national movement that has arisen as a result of it, really looking at how do we achieve the most equity and how do we achieve fairness for everybody who lives in our great nation. And we have a lot of work to do on that. And there's also a lot of reforms that will be needed over time, both here and on a national level. But what I wanted to do was to share with you how the city and my office are responding to the COVID-19 crisis, and then to give you a quick update on the financial situation of the city. So first of all, in terms of the response of the city, we have more than 30 testing sites right now that have performed more than 400,000 tests since March the 20th. The largest of these is actually at Dodger Stadium that can test 6,000 people on a daily basis. Now, testing in and of itself, of course, does not solve the problem of the virus, but it is, I think, a necessary prerequisite to actually helping to better understand and better pinpoint and to better handle and better allocate resources. We've also ramped up tremendously the senior meals. There's still not nearly enough of them, but there are a lot of seniors who are very much in need. Some of this is through our Department of Aging. Some of this is in partnership with the county. Some of it is in partnership with restaurants and with nonprofits. And there's also work that's being done on the local level for businesses with the LA Cares Corps, the Small Business Microloan Program that is just beginning to get off the ground. Not nearly enough funds for it yet, but there's actually efforts being made to from the city, from the county, to contribute money along with private donors for a loan loss reserve fund, so that private lenders will feel more comfortable lending to some of these small businesses in Los Angeles. We know it's going to have a higher than normal default rate, so do they. And the way to get them to lend is to give them a loan loss reserve. Let me first of all, show you the COVID-19 resource hub that was created by my office. Hopefully that will show up on your screen momentarily. And what that includes is, first of all, and if you go to my website, you'll be able to find this. We have in day by day what the COVID numbers are for the city of Los Angeles. But what we also wanted to do was to map it. And so it's mapped for each and every single community in the Los Angeles area. You can see precisely how many cases there are in every area, including in the Porter Ranch area. You can also see a breakdown by gender and by ethnicity and by age. And what, of course, we know is that the older you are, the more vulnerable you are. Our poorer communities, our communities of color, are very much impacted as well. And the numbers, as many of you have probably seen in the news, even though we are beginning to open up much more so than before, the numbers of new cases continue to actually remain stable or increase rather than decrease, which is of concern. And so we still have to really maintain a lot of strict protocols in the way that things are opening up in terms of masks and social distancing, et cetera. What we also did was map where the stimulus checks are going. This is based on data of income levels in various communities, based on density, looking at what are the areas and what is the concentration of where stimulus checks in the Los Angeles area, neighborhood by neighborhood, community by community, are going to be going. What I also did was create 16 different categories in this resource hub for those who need assistance. If you are an employee, an employer, a job seeker, a freelancer, a renter, an owner, a small business, a nonprofit, you can click on any of these boxes and there are a whole panoply of resources available. Of course, many people fit into more than one category, but we found that this was a good way to consolidate information. And of course, there are a variety of different sites with COVID information out there, including the city's overall site and the mayor's site, many good sites. But what we tried to do was find a way to take these and make them more simple and more accessible in a whole variety of different ways. What we also did was to map the job losses in the Los Angeles area. And you'll see that hopefully come up in a moment as well. Within the Porter Ranch, within the Porter Ranch area specifically, as of the end of April, the estimated job losses were 2,825. That's a percentage loss of 15.1% for job losses in the Porter Ranch area specifically. And there's also a breakdown of what kind of jobs those are, as you can see on your screen. You know, overall, we lost 70,000 jobs in accommodation and food service, 33,000 jobs in retail, 27,000 jobs in healthcare. Interestingly enough, while there's a lot of attention paid to the tremendous need for healthcare workers, there's also a lot of healthcare workers who couldn't do their usual job, like dentists, for example, and dental technicians and others who have not been doing their usual work amidst COVID. We're hoping that these numbers will begin to improve in May and then into June. I also created a food resource map. And even before COVID began, we know that there are a lot of people who are food insecure in the Los Angeles area who don't have the money to go even buy some basic groceries. Excuse me, I'm gonna have a little sip of coconut water. Ah, that's so much better. Okay. Speaking of food access, there were various lists of different food banks or food pantries out there, but it hadn't been mapped, interestingly enough. And so first I mapped all the ones in the city, then I mapped all the ones in the county, and now I've mapped all the ones in the state of California. This map now features 1,800 food banks, pantries, emergency distribution centers all over the state, as well as information about those grocery stores that still have special opening hours for seniors and high-risk shoppers. I'm gratified to say that people are using this map, but I'm also deeply distressed to say that it has become the most popular feature on my website, which tells me something really profound and disturbing about the current state of affairs with so many people who have the need to avail themselves of this kind of food assistance. But if you know of people who need it, if you know of various organizations through which to distribute this link, that would be terrific. And also, you can check out the ones that are in your community and look at where you may have some time or inclination to even volunteer, because they need that as well. So that information is all part of this food resources map. Let me shift now to talk briefly about the financial situation of the city. And part of why I ran for controller is because I became obsessed with the finances of the city. Through my own neighborhood council, I became a neighborhood council budget advocate, and one thing led to another, and I did the crazy thing of running for controller. As some of you may know, my own background was as an attorney, as a small business person, as a journalist, and decided to make the change to working within government. And wanted to really bring to City Hall and to government a more business-like way of operating, and a way of thinking about how we use our funds most effectively and most efficiently. Part of what we do in the controller's office, besides doing the distribution of all the money that the city spends and also auditing and financial reporting, is we do budget forecasting. And those budget forecasts are used by the mayor each year to actually help to create the budget. We've been extremely accurate, I'm proud to say, each year in terms of our budget forecasting. We consult with economists and with other experts. We gather their opinions, and that's how we come up with those budget estimates. We came up with them for the coming fiscal year in March, and the fiscal year begins on the 1st of July and then goes through the 30th of June. Of course, March changed all of that. And the numbers have declined rather precipitously, although most of the revenues for the fiscal year that we are in right now had already come in. So we are going to see something like $250 million less than was otherwise anticipated. That's still up over what it was the previous fiscal year. And we also have the ability to sustain that given the fact that we've had a relatively robust reserve and budget stabilization fund. However, that is going to change come the 1st of July when we start the new fiscal year, and then it becomes more difficult. First of all, we came up with 3 budget scenarios. One, which was the optimistic one of only being 200 million less than anticipated. Then we came up with the medium, which is 400, and then the more troublesome one, which is 600 million, or perhaps even more, unfortunately. We're going to see how recovery begins to take shape. But we know some of our businesses have been very much devastated, although some have actually remained relatively robust. I mean, construction activity, for example, you can still see pretty much everywhere. So we're going to have to see how it all pans out, but it was based on this uncertainty that the mayor proposed a budget that has now been called a placeholder budget, which basically means that it's going to be revisited rather regularly, depending upon what the numbers show. That budget pretty much was accepted by the council as is, although within the last week, as I'm sure many of you know, there's been an announcement by the mayor to take 150 million out of the LAPD budget and to reallocate it, and perhaps another $100 million or so from other departments. By the way, my own department, even before this happened, was being slashed by 18%. That is not just cutting into the flesh, it's cutting into the very bone. And so there is still not clarity of where these additional monies might be cut, nor is there yet clarity on exactly where those monies will go. More on that in the coming weeks as the mayor's proposals and as the city council comes to a greater sense of clarity on that. We have received some money from the federal government. Actually, they do FEMA reimbursements. By the way, as you're speaking, I'm like looking over to the side, and we have 9-month-old twins who are about to take their bath, and one of them is actually crawling my way as we speak. So I'm kind of keeping one eye on him as well. But we have received $694 million in coronavirus relief funds from the federal government. That has gone into a special fund of the city. It can only be used for coronavirus relief-related expenses, cannot be used to fill other budget holes. We receive up to $745 million. And do you want to say hi to everybody in Porter Ranch, Eli? Hold on a second. See, I can't do this at a regular meeting, but I can do this here. Hold on a second. Eli, you want to say hello?
Hey, Eli.
Hello, Eli.
Bye.
I was hoping we'd see one of the
The
babies.
problem is I put him in front of a screen, and even at this age, he loves his screen.
Hey, Ron, that's our next city
so-
engineer.
We are. By the way, when he grows up, he's going to be a ZJ, which is I guess going to be the Zoom version of being a DJ. It will no doubt be a very popular job. But it's very important that the departments very carefully code everything, and we're working with them so that we actually can, get every dollar that we qualify for. Let me also note that on our website, we have our annual financial report, but we also have an interactive version of it. The interactive version of it includes a lot of information about the LAPD budget, LAPD funding, including details about crimes reported versus arrests, traffic citations issued, looking at how much of the budget goes into our various departments, including into LAPD. I won't get into it very deeply, but there's a lot that is there to explore. Let me close by saying that we are in a challenging time here in Los Angeles, but I'm an optimist, and I look to the future all the time. I'm actually the first in my family to be born in this country. My parents came here speaking no English to realize the American dream for their kids. And thankfully, they were able to, for myself and for my sister. And I want to make sure that as many of the next generation as possible, that everybody really has those same kind of opportunities. And we live in a very creative and a very wonderful city, but we've got work to do. As I see it, when you think about the changes that will come because of COVID, for example, we may see a growth in remote learning, and that would be a good thing. We are seeing new types of businesses arise. We are seeing a growth in telemedicine, people who didn't previously have access to being able to see a doctor who will be able to have the ability to consult in a way that they didn't have before. Imagine building and safety inspections in some cases being done by FaceTime. Imagine many different departments that offer ways to interact so that you don't have to drag yourself into City Hall and park. Imagine being able to comment at a public hearing and not actually have to be in attendance. There are a lot of good things that can come from this experience that we are in. And I'm hoping and I'm optimistic that we will seize on those opportunities, learn from the good and from the bad, and evolve as a city and as a society. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity to be with you and to share a little bit of this evening. And we are happy always to be a resource in the Controller's Office. There's a wealth of information on our control panel. It was the city's first open data site. We now have 900 data sets. We have 10 years worth of spending, every single transaction in there. We have all sorts of dashboards that look at performance of various departments and various aspects of the city. And we are adding to it and refining it each and every single day. And with that, I'm happy to be available for any questions. And again, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Mr. Galpin. Thank you very much. I'd like to help us stay on schedule. We are a little behind, so I'm going to ask Brandy and then Asad. You have questions, please make them quick. There's a question on the floor. I also want to give them the chance to ask Mr. Galpin, and then we move on. Brandy, go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you so much for coming to speak with us, Ron. You're always a wonderful person to hear from, and your family is adorable.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're a great person. I just want to put a bug in your ear about, as you've just experienced, internet services across Los Angeles are problematic at best. And while I know there's deep cuts everywhere, obviously in face of what's happened in the recent pandemic, I hope that the city services will look into ways that we can improve our internet infrastructure to help people work from home and be able to shelter in place as the need continues to arise.
You are 100% correct in that we are finally beginning to see broadband access for what it is, which is a utility. It's as important as electricity, as gas is, as water is. It's a lifeline, and by the way, so important for learning and for business and for so much more. And I think that LA, as well as our nation, is going to really have to take this much more seriously. You go to other parts of the world, you go into Asia, you go into Europe, and they have a very widely available, very high speed, often free internet and broadband available. And I think we have to look at how we really ramp it up because no society can progress without it.
And there have been studies that show a direct correlation between a lack of internet and lack of economic mobility and opportunity.
Absolutely correct. And so there are ongoing conversations about how to make that happen, but it has to happen and be ramped up. And I think that everybody is now much more aware of it than ever before. This is particularly true, by the way, for so many of the students who are trying to learn something while LAUSD is remote.
Thank you, Ron.
Asad.
And as a technology
Brandy,
person,
if
you need help, I'm always willing to help.
Thank you so much, Brandy.
Asad, go ahead.
Yes. Hi, Ron. This is Asad Al-Najjar. I am board member here, and I work for the Bureau of Street Lighting too in daytime. I have a comment or a suggestion in regards the federal government relief fund. Many of the neighborhood councils the past few months have donating some of their money to help seniors and through meals and a lot of that. Is there a possibility that you allocate, let's say, $10,000 for each neighborhood council out of the federal government relief fund? For that, the neighborhood council can be able to provide the seniors with food or services. Is that a possibility? Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question. It's a really interesting question. The rules for how this money may be spent are very strict, and the rules also require a lot of paperwork and ability to show exactly how the money has been used. But given that, it's a possibility. I do not know the answer to that question. That's one that we could pose, or that could be posed, for example, to the city attorney's office, which would probably be the one that is most likely to be able to answer it with a greater level of certainty than I would be able to.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And one question from the floor, and then I'm going to move on. Glenn Bailey, your audio should be on.
Thank you. Hi, Ron. Glenn Bailey.
Hi, Glenn.
Following your footsteps, many years later as budget advocate. Quick question, and it's related to Assad's. For the monies that the neighborhood councils spent on COVID-19 emergency purposes, that's been documented by the city. Will the city, it may be too early to ask this, and maybe you were including that in the answer, but I didn't quite hear it. Do you think the city might be able to include that in the reimbursement and possibly get that money back to, hopefully to neighborhood councils, if first choice, secondly, Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, and then at the very least, at least get it back to the city of LA? Reimbursement for the monies we've already spent for emergency purposes.
Mm-hmm. Again, that's a great question. I can't say that I know the answer to that at this moment, but I'm going to go back and look into it because I think it's a worthy question. And in fact, when you look at what this money is supposed to be used for, what you're describing in terms of providing assistance right now amidst the COVID crisis would seem to fit the criteria, but that depends on actually reading the details of what is and what is not permitted. But I think if it's in fact permitted, that could very well be a really interesting idea and a good way also to help out the neighborhood councils and help them continue their good work.
Great, thank you.
I like that.
Great.
All right, Ron, thank you very much for being with us tonight. And you got somebody to give a bath to, so we will let you go.
Well, thank you so very much. I will say I miss seeing you all in person, but the commute was really so much easier.
Yes, yes.
And I also very much wanted to thank Christina, who was on this call. The many things that we do in our office could not happen without terrific people in the controller's office, most of them working very hard remotely, and Christina is one of them. So thank you so much, Christina.
Yes, thank you, Christina.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the best to you. Thank you so much. Have a good night, everybody.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you all. Next item on the agenda is item 4. And I'm assuming everybody can see the shared screen. This is presentation. Nope, that's not it. This one. Item 5. Presentation from representatives of elected officials and city departments. I'd like to get a sense of who's in the room. I know Mr. Morales is here. Would you please raise your hand? Aha, okay. Give me 1 second. And Mr. Cruz is here. All right, Mr. Morales, the floor is yours. You need to unmute. There you go.
All right, thank you very much, and appreciate the time that you've given me here. And hopefully, I'll get to come meet a lot of you in person soon. You know, I haven't had the issue with the commute before, as Ron said, but I'm sure I'll get to that point eventually. So thanks for having me. I just want to give you guys a quick update on kind of where things are at with the office. You know, we obviously are in the process of getting spooled up. It's sort of like trying to build an airplane as it's taking off, since we haven't had the normal amount of transition time after an election, jumping right in. We are getting the offices open and answering the phones, and we are taking calls on for casework, and we're also simultaneously trying to work through the backlog of cases that built up over the last 6 to 9 months where nobody was really handling it. So we appreciate everybody's patience as we work through those. In addition to that, in case you didn't hear about it, also we did have a piece of legislation that went through a couple of weeks back that Mike voted on, and And oh, geez, I don't think I said that. I'm here on behalf of Congressman Mike Garcia, which I said at the very beginning, but I didn't say it again now. So, one of the bills that was just passed was the Paycheck Protection Program Flexibility Act, which relevant for businesses all around our state and definitely within our district, that it extended the period from 8 weeks to 24 weeks for spending the funds that you got, and allowed businesses to stay within the original 8-week window if they wanted to, and also extended the deferment window. And then a couple other things it did was it replaced the 75-25 rule for spending it with a 60-40 rule on how much it had to be spent on payroll. And then it also allowed for businesses to, because they've discovered a problem, which some of you may have heard. If any of you have friends that are small business owners or are small business owners, might be starting to run into this now as you start to try to hire people back. Some of them are not wanting to come back to work because they're getting more money now with the COVID bonus than on unemployment. So they're, well, no thanks, I'll just, I'd rather stay home. So that's not the business's fault, and that's part of the original plan was that you had to hire people back for that money to be forgiven. Well, that's hard for you to do if people are refusing to come back. So there was a change in that you basically had to have a good faith effort to try to get those people to come back to work, and if they refuse, it's not on you. And those are the main the kind of highlights from that bill. And then as I said, we have the offices open again and are taking calls. If people have cases that they need worked on, you can feel free to call our number. It's on Mike Garcia's website, which is mikegarcia.house.gov. You can also send emails on that website to our office if you need something. And Mike is also in the process of going around to different parts of the district when he can, when he's back here and not in DC. So, feel free to let us know of any questions you guys have. You also saw on the agenda coming up, you have a request coming that you're looking at asking for some more information on the Aliso Canyon thing. Mike is also interested in finding out more about that and seeing what help he can provide in that area. So after you guys take your vote on that, if you want to send me the information on what you guys decided to do on it, that would be great. I'm at john.morales@mail.house.gov. It's John, JOHN.Morales, MORALES @mail.house.gov. And that's it. I just wanted to kind of introduce myself and let you guys know we are open.
Thank you. If you don't mind, there's a couple of questions from the floor, but from the board and then the floor, but please, everybody.
Can you give a phone number though, please?
Make it efficient.
The office?
Sure. The phone number for the office is 661-568-4855.
Thank you.
And that's the main line. There's also the other offices right now that are still getting spun up, but if you call the other offices, which you can, it'll get forwarded to that number right now. So that's the main number.
Thank you. Becky, go ahead.
It's a real quick question. And speaking about the business loans, if your employees decide that they don't want to come back because they're getting more money on unemployment insurance, will they still be allowed to collect the unemployment insurance?
Yeah, we've talked about that. I mean, normally that would not be the case, right?
Right.
If you're not actively looking for work or you turn down work, you stop getting the unemployment.
Right.
Obviously that's what the norm would be. Mike has talked about that. I don't know what the appetite is at the state EDD level to pursue that right now with the kind of the environment. It's really kind of a question for them. I mean, obviously the right thing would be that, they should, accept the work if it's given back to them. But how much of an appetite people are going to have to kind of go after that in the current environment right now is sort of an open question. But
okay, so they're not going to come out if they say no. Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mehran.
Just quick, John, I was introduced to you by the Chief of Staff, Maurice Thomas, last week, and he did an email. I follow up with you tomorrow more details regarding the topic that we are going to talk together.
Okay, great. Look forward to it.
Likewise.
David Lasher, go ahead.
Mr. Morales, very briefly, looking forward to having those conversations about Aliso Canyon, but I wanted to also mention my wife's a small business owner and has employees that straight up told them they're not coming back because of that extra money they're making at home. So it's definitely something that needs to be looked at. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and it is being looked at, but yeah, we understand it's a problem.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. Thanks for coming to our meeting. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Colin, you lower your hand, but I assume you're still here.
I'm still here.
All right. You have the floor, sir.
I figured you'd remember me. Hey, everybody. I'm Colin Cruz. I'm District Director for Councilmember John Lee. Some quick updates. As businesses start to reopen, the council member has set up a team of our staffers in our office to help with any questions regarding what's allowed to be open, what's not open, what the protocols are. So we have a business reopening team that if you have any questions, you can reach out to us and they will be able to help you. That team is being headed up by my colleague and co-district director, Eric Moody. So like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to contact our office and we'll do everything we can to help. Last time we spoke, I mentioned that the council member, along with a local philanthropist, had set up an angel fund for small businesses. It has been incredibly successful, and so far we have given out close to $300,000 in no interest small business loans. We are continuing to participate in meal delivery for the Wilkinson Center for seniors that are homebound during the crisis. In fact, we will be going out tomorrow morning to deliver meals. And then lastly, as the controller mentioned, with the budget, the mayor has called on and there has been a motion put forward to cut LAPD's budget significantly. The council member is against these cuts. Again, as the controller mentioned, because of the COVID crisis, there's going to be cuts to every department already. So we don't feel that at this time it's appropriate to just unilaterally cut one department's budget when everybody is going to be looking at cuts in any case. So he is opposed to that motion. And other than that, I'm happy to take any questions you guys might have.
Thank you. Assad, you have the floor.
Yes. Hi, Colin. This is Assad. Just wanted to say thank you for putting me in touch with Matt and Eric Moody, and hopefully we'll find some formula and solution for the car racing and a lot of the safety issues. And I'll keep you in the loop because we're trying to find ways with LADOT somehow to get a lot of whatever solution possible to lower the speeds and to stop racing. And that's it. Thank you.
Sure. I mean, and to that, LAPD has been very active up there in Porter Ranch. In fact, there were arrests made last month regarding street racing.
Right.
I don't think the arrests were made in Porter Ranch, but they were tracked from the Porter Ranch area, and the arrest was made in another community.
Right. Thanks.
Thank you, Assad. Okay, guys, we'll keep the floor going, but we need to keep an eye on the time. Jason, it's your time.
Hi, Colin. Just a quick question on the LAPD budget. Was there a budget cut to LAPD? Because I know the city's getting cut wide, across the board, a certain percentage, but just wondering if you know about that, because my understanding is the proposed budget was not including a cut to LAPD. It was an increase, I thought.
Well, but the thing is that, like the controller mentioned, the budget is fluid at this point because of everything that's going on. So everything is going to be adjusted. The council members all for looking for ways to save money that doesn't necessarily take police off the streets. and there's certainly savings to be found there. But yes, initially the budget, I don't think LAPD had a cut, but that was, you know, it's still all fluid. I mean, things were going to change and things are going to change.
All right,
There
thank you.
wasn't a cut. Thank you.
Hassan?
Hi, Colin. Quick question. I had heard of some discussion regarding maybe allocating some budget to bring about some of the trees and shrubs that will lost because of the fires. And now with this question with the budget, do you have any clarity as to what Porter Ranch might actually get, or was there anything that is going to be taken away for?
I mean, I don't have any information on that. I can follow up with Matt Biasia. He handles urban forestry issues for the office, so I can ask Matt, but I don't know.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Please let us know.
Thank you. David Lasher?
Sorry to be brief, Colin. They have been up here for the street racing. That's great. It's gotten strangely very loud. This whole muffler thing is a totally different dynamic to the noise and the problems we're having with the loud cars. Modified mufflers, you sound like shotgun blast every time I downshift, coming down Reseda, Tampa, Wilbur. I've experienced that myself and had complaints from people saying it's just so loud, and it's a illegal modification thing that the LAPD could look into in addition to the racing, but it's part and parcel. It's the same vehicles, same people.
Sure.
And on the budget thing, I know that the LAPD was looking at an increase of $128 million, but that was for differential pay for college educations for officers and street policemen. That was before everything had happened with Minneapolis. So the budget was going up for that and before anything else.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I mean, everything is fluid at this point, but just, the unilateral cut just doesn't seem
fair.
Yeah. I mean, we've had a lot of, very peaceful protests in our community over the past couple of weeks. And part of the reason that everything has remained peaceful is because our LAPD Devonshire and Topanga divisions have done they're out there with the folks,
Yes,
they're,
indeed.
and they're not, they're not escalating things, and everything has been, peaceful, and that's exactly how it should be. And they've, Devonshire division and Topanga division have done a great job during this very trying period between COVID and the protests, and they've done a great job.
Thank you, Colin. I have one question from the floor. Andrew, I assume you have a question for Mr. Cruz?
I do. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
I'll make this super quick. Colin, I spoke with Jonathan Cotto last night, Northridge West. He pointed me to Eric, which I have just not heard back from. Do you have an update on the installation time on the left turn arrow Wilbur Rinaldi? Thank you very much.
I mean, I know that project was approved. If I remember correctly, it's a funding issue, but I will follow up with Eric Moody.
Colin, the poles are already laying in the dirt on the corner.
Oh, well, good. Well, then that's good. So I do know that DOT right now during the COVID crisis is prioritizing everything that is COVID related to them. I had a request in Granada Hills today to move a parking sign thing. And, that was the response I got from DOT, which is, we'll get to it. But right now, everything that they're doing is prioritized by, relationship to COVID-19. So, but I will certainly.
Can we ask for an update on that? Can you get to us with an update on that, please, to the board?
Sure. I'll ask Eric. Yeah.
Let us all know. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much, Colin.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. Freddie, you have the floor.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. So I'm just going to do a quick report, letting you know that.
You want to tell people who you are?
Oh yes. Hello, my name is Freddie from the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. This neighborhood council's NEA. So again, just wanted to give you a quick report. So there is a tentative date for Monday, July 27th, from 6 to 8 p.m. For a workshop For Robert's Rules Made Simple, our department will try to contact every board member to make sure that those that want to refresh on parliamentary procedures can attend. The city clerk, they extended the deadline for the funding training and switched it from June 30th to September 30th. So those that were supposed to expire June 30th they moved it up to September 30th to give enough time to complete your necessary training on Cornerstone. If you are a financial officer, please go to the city clerk's website so that you could RSVP a one-on-one training or a group training on their Google Meet so that you could work with the funding rep and do that live training together and ensure that your financial officer status does not go expired. Couple of deadlines. Monday, June 15th is the last date to submit check payment requests in the NC funding system. Saturday, June 20th is the last date for NC credit. What does that sound? Okay, so Saturday, June 20th is the last date for NC credits, credit card transactions. And June 30th is the last date to submit encumbrance requests for the city clerk. As you know, next fiscal year, there will be budget cuts. Our department has cut $1.3 million off of our department. So that is also including the furloughs that will be happening in the department. So that will be a couple 8 hours per week per each employee per pay period that will be taking off. So we're trying to do the best we can to make sure it doesn't impact you as the NC during the meeting times. But during the regular work hours, we're going to be adjusting so that we meet with the furlough requirements next fiscal year, starting in July. I just wanted to give you that heads up because all city members will be, most city members will be furloughed. But I wanted to make sure that you heard it from me, what exactly will be happening. But I'll do my best to answer any questions you might have, whether phone call or email. And again, thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jason?
So how many employees do you think, or when if you could let us know how many employees or how it's going to impact your department?
We currently have 28 employees in our staff, both administrative and project coordinators. And everyone will be getting furloughed. And also there will be 15 to 20% of our staff dedicated to DSW for the next fiscal year. Currently, everyone in our department is doing some form of DSW work, disaster service worker. That's what DSW means. So for example, last Friday, I was at a hotel site for Project Room Key, helping individuals who are experiencing homelessness in the hotels, providing them breakfast and lunch, doing an 8-hour shift. So each of us get called by personnel to do that. And we don't know when we get called during this fiscal year, but next fiscal year, it will be a dedicated set staff that will be working continuously for DSW work. And then those neighborhood councils will be temporarily shifted to other NEAs to help cover them while they do the DSW work.
So if you could just keep us posted next month, what updates on that, we'd appreciate it, because
for sure, yeah,
we know and love working with you guys, but we just want to kind of know what's going on. Thank you.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm telling you everything that I know as of right now.
Appreciate it.
One last comment, Freddie, for both Gabriel and I have completed our training. We've submitted our certificates, and we really, I know that people are busy. They need time to post them, but we would like to at least hear back that they were received.
Yes.
So please let us know. When we send an email and we don't get an answer back, we don't know if it was received or not. So just let them know that it was received. That's all.
Oh, definitely. I forwarded 2 times for both you and Gabriel, and also for the update on the Porter Ranch page.
Okay.
That was 5 times, and I've even now copied my director on it.
All right. Thank you, Freddie. Appreciate your time. Okay, let me move on to the next item on the agenda, and my screen a little busy here, so I'm trying to move things around. Item 6 is the budget advocate update. I don't know if, I guess Mr. Allen is in the room, so let me allow him to speak. Mr. Allen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, Council. This is Brian Allen. I'm from Granada Hills. I am the budget advocate assigned to your council. I believe most of you know that, but it's appropriate to say that to anybody that might be listening. The budget advocates are having their elections. As you know, I think you know, and if you don't, I'll make sure you do now. The budget day has been postponed. It is no longer going to be on June 20th, but it will probably happen sometime in the fall. I can't tell you when. We haven't planned it yet, but it has been postponed. It will come back around. But the elections for budget advocates have to go on. We all are being reelected, or new budget advocates are being elected on the 27th and 28th. The 27th at 1 o'clock will be the elections for Region 2. So that would be both of your budget reps we would hope that they will be there in order to participate in that. There will also be a short period of communication with regards to issues and concerns. And along with that, the budget advocates are currently looking at, even though we're coming very close to our end of term, we're currently going to start looking seriously at the budget, the city budget, in regards to the police issues and with regards to COVID issues. I know that because I'm involved in some emails right now with regards to the executive committee, and we're having a meeting on Friday to start addressing this. So we hope to be able to set up some meetings that the budget advocates will start entertaining and go forward on that. So if you have any questions with regards to the budget, and I know I've heard already that there are questions, they should be forwarded. We would love to have them forwarded. I would love to have them forwarded so that we can start to address those. Ron was absolutely correct in that we don't know how bad the budget is going to be impacted by all of this. And we do know that there is a lot of emotion going into this. We know that there's a lot of conjecture going into it. Nobody knows for sure exactly what the impact's going to be. And we in Los Angeles are recovering much slower than many other areas of the country. And that is a governmental decision based on belief that the COVID-19 will spread more. So whether we agree or disagree on that, that is the facts as they exist today. So we're taking a very hard look at it, trying to come up with our own ideas as to what's going on. And many of us have voiced our opinions, and we will continue to do so. But I would love to have more impact with regards to questions from the stakeholders as to what they feel or what they fear. Other than that, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Becky, go ahead.
Brian, how do we contact you?
You can contact me at B as in boy, Allen, ALLEN, at ncbala.com. Or you can use my own, you can use my personal if you want. I can give it to you quickly. It's M as in Mary, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, A as in Apple, V as in Victor, A as in Apple, N as in Nancy, UI at AOL.com.
Okay. Okay. Very
Thank
good.
You. Jason, go ahead.
Oh, hi, Brian.
Hi.
I was trying to reach out to you and give you a call, but I didn't have your phone number, and I don't know if you want to share it here on the Zoom
Absolutely.
call.
818.
Oh, okay.
802-3084.
Okay. And do you have more information on the meeting on June 27th? And I believe the other budget rep is David Lasher.
Yes.
And I plan on attending, but I'd like to make sure that I have all the information to attend and on the June 27th for the.
It'll be a Zoom meeting, and we'll send that out to you as quickly as I have the details.
Okay. Well, thank
Great.
you.
Great, and I will be attending it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. I'm sure Glenn's on the line. He's happy to hear that. We would love to have as many people, but it's not limited only to you. The entire board can show up if you want.
Everyone.
Yes.
Thank you. Glenn, give me 1 second. Glenn, go ahead.
Thanks. Just for Jason and David L. and everyone, the details of how to join the June 27th are posted on the website for the Budget Advocates, ncba.com. It's posted there now. I do expect you'll get multiple emails, but I wanted to make sure that all stakeholders were aware they could get the information right now. Be sure you select regions 1 and 2. That's the North Valley. The other dates are for different parts of the city. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Give me 1 second. Okay. With that, let me move on to the next item on the agenda, which is public comment. This is public comments on items not on the agenda and within the purview of the board, that is within something that the board can actually do anything about or influence. So anybody from the floor who would like to give a public comment on items not on the agenda? Mr. Bailey, you have the floor.
Thank you, Glenn Bailey. Really quickly, I may have announced at your last meeting that the Valley Alliance of Neighborhood Councils, after having canceled its anniversary mixer and then gone dark because of the COVID-19, was going to resume with virtual Zoom meetings in June. And that was the announcement made in May. However, that has apparently changed. We were supposed to have a session with the director of Streets LA, the general manager, Adele Hutchkalil, but that's been deferred. You'll be notified. Those of you that are on the email list will be notified when that's rescheduled. I expect that it will be the normal second Thursday of the month at 6:30. The only difference is it'll be via Zoom. So so tomorrow night, there was no bank Zooming. So maybe next month. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Summers, go ahead. You need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Okay, my name is Joni Summers. I see that you have Aliso Canyon on the agenda. I just found it, but I'm wondering what your advice and if there's anything that can be done. I feel like we're in double jeopardy being told stay at home, safer at home, and yet we have leaks at Aliso Canyon. Is there any news on it being closed down sooner than, I mean, what do you know?
You know, this is not something we can get into a discussion on in the public comment period, but if you'd like to reach out to us outside the meeting, we'll be glad to give you whatever answer we can give you.
Mm-hmm.
If this is Isam Nejim, if you have my email, or you can send an email to board@prnc.org and it'll come to the entire board right away.
Okay, I will do that because I feel that it's very important. I feel like we're all in double jeopardy.
That's right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other hands raised, so let me move on to the next item on the agenda, board member comments and reports. It's an open floor to the board. I'd like to know who would like to say something, comment about something, speak, or This is not a discussion, just a report from you. If there's anything you'd like to say.
Shall we report like I would report on my safety committee? Is that
That's fine. That's fine. Just anything that's not on the agenda.
Right. Do you want me to start?
I need raised hands, but go ahead.
Okay. Hi. So this is Asad Al-Najjar for the Safety and Transit Committee. So we had a peaceful protest, and I would like to thank our captain in Devonshire, LAPD Devonshire, and all the SLOs, and also a special thank to the California Highway. They were hiding in the back next to the fire department in case the riot or the protest went out of hand, and they would go in if it becomes a riot. Also, as I mentioned earlier with Colin, we're working close with Eric Modi and LADOT, trying to find solutions on the increasing speeding and racing and all that. And hopefully LADOT this time will be more respondent to our request. CPAB, LAPD CPAB is back in meetings, and David and I have been active with them and relating to them the community comments in regards the safety and the masks wearing at the public parks and around the sidewalks. And we're trying with their help to get more going on in regards to safety while walking. Also, David and I and other members, we helped with the senior meals, and I'm sure my other colleagues will mention it. And at this time, I would like also to thank Gabriel and David, my co-chairs, for the active role they've been doing with all the homeowner associations when it came to safety the past week and organizing the at-night closures and all that. Thank you.
Jason, the floor is yours.
All right. I just wanted to give an update on the beautification committee, which, you know, I've been putting a lot of requests in for, I wrote them all down here. I went and counted everything. 14 graffiti removals, 29 dumping, which is basically people who are doing their brush clearance and putting the bags on the streets that you see. So there's 29 of them. 2 illegal sign removals. Weed abatement requests were made with Rex and Parks. So Rex and Parks is pretty caught up on their brush clearance, which is good. I know it's taken a while and people haven't been too happy about it, but that's how they do it. They try and clear their brush by June 1st. Also, weed abatement requests were put in with West Valley Alliance for the major streets in Porter Ranch. So that's Reseda, Cessnon, Tampa, and Wilbur. And also requested street sweeping on Tampa, which was completed. I picked up trash in ET Park, within the park and in front of ET Park, because it's just become out of hand. And also I put 4 requests in with Caltrans for weed abatement along Rinaldi. The weeds have finally, they've been getting around to it. Also 2 requests for broken fence I put in this morning. And the litter and trash on Porter Ranch Drive at the Park and Ride has been an ongoing problem. But that request is still open and they've been working to address it. Also 2 shopping cart requests. CD12 has been helping with that, but I've been using cartretrieval.net to help pick up those shopping carts. And so, you know, we continue to just have the same issues with homeowners, you know, needing to maintain the weeds and trash up to the curbside. And they need to do a better job at keeping their hillsides cut with the trash, but also the weeds for fire danger. And that includes the sidewalks and the tree wells should be clean of weeds and trash. And that's a homeowner responsibility. And unfortunately, a lot of places they're not doing that, especially on Braymore. You know, Braymore continues to be a dumping ground for trash, and the homeowners who live down below should be doing that, but they're not. And West Valley Alliance has been contacted to help deal with the weed abatement. But, you know, we did this before. We spent money to get this taken care of, and and it's just something that, you know, the city has to help. So people are not using 311 to report their brush clearance when they put them in bags. They aren't doing it. They're not reporting their bulky items to be picked up either. So I've been doing all that. I just want to make sure everything's clean. So I'm looking forward to hearing from the board and other committee members about future projects for the beautification committee. We're going to be talking about the budget, and I'd like to hear from everyone in terms of what you think we should focus on for community improvement projects next year. So I anticipate having a retreat for that. We have, so for the art box project, the public art project with the street boxes, we are doing the call to artists now, and I've sent the information to Lori. So now CD12, this is a project with CD12, and Northridge West is also doing it. We need to get the word out to as many artists as possible so that we can get a lot of submissions. And so the theme that we are doing is connection to community and each other, connection to nature, connection to those lost and their legacy, and then how connection has adapted and evolved through the time of COVID. So we've kind of narrowed, we need to narrow the focus down so that the artists can submit proposals for us. So that's a small update. Contract was signed, the check went out, everything is good to go on the project. So we're hoping to get as many submissions as possible for these art boxes. It's 14 boxes between Northridge West is doing 7 and we're doing 7. So they're primarily along Rinaldi, and they're also, well, we're also waiting on DOT to make sure that they're not going to be like taking down the box and things like that. So there's some logistical aspects still we're working on, but the call to artists is expiring on July 10th. So I'm hoping to work with Lori and get the word out, and ESOM too, if you could put it in the newsletter, that would be great. The call to artists with the application, I'll send you the PDF file. And if we could just get the word out, the more the merrier.
Okay.
As far as artists. That's my
Thank
update.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Miran?
So I attended the interfaith yesterday, which was very informative. There are many developments going in the homeless as well as the projects. That's number one. This morning, I attended with the Homeless Valley Alliance for another meeting with them. I helped the LUSD with the meal. As well, I was on a call with Pierce College for a project they are working. It's called Nutrition and Green Science. That's all.
Thank you. David Lasher?
I just wanted to piggyback on what Jason said in terms of, especially on Braemar, the trash, there's a consistent problem, at least on certain weekend nights and all, with people parking along Braemar, then going up and looking at the city lights and consuming adult beverages and smoking cigarettes, some that have actually lit fires up there. We should definitely bring it back up with Colin. It's not just a street racing, the speeding. That's a frequent little place to hang out. I've even seen motorcycles drive over the curb onto that plateau over on the other side, on the Reseda side, south of Braemar. But a lot of that trash is generated by people that are up there after dark, just want to look at the city and cause a lot of problems up there in that respect.
Thank you. Hassan?
Hi, everyone. Just want to briefly mention that after a period of silence, we are back in business of discussing, again, environmental issues, climate changes, specifically having interaction with neighborhood council sustainability alliances. We have had a couple of Zoom meeting conferences with them. a lot of very good topics, including some of the kind of very interesting data about COVID-19's impact on nature. And as you all know, a lot of reports on cleaner air, nature kind of reviving itself. So it's been some pretty interesting statistic, things that we didn't think is going to be achievable that fast and that easily. It did become achievable by most of us staying home. So I the silver lining with the COVID-19, if there is any positive out of that situation. I also wanted to mention that the sustainability group, advisory group with City of LA is back in discussions, and we had one Zoom call. We talked about electric vehicles and the solar action, and also some discussion on tree planting and guidelines on watering and maintenance. So good discussion going on, and we hope to have more of them in the next few weeks.
All right. With that, let me move on to the next item on the agenda, if I can get to it. Item number 9, motion to ratify the May 2020 monthly expenditure report. And I'm going to put the report up on the screen, but I need to stop this share and start a new share. Jason?
I'll make a motion to approve, or well, to ratify the May 2020 MER.
I'll second the motion.
A second.
Let me ask you, Jason, anything in the MER that is noteworthy at this point, or is this basically a somewhat of a dormant month because of the lack of activity recently?
Well, it's good to look at because, scroll up, start from the top. It's good to look at because it shows the budgeting side, but I think we're going to get more into the budgeting discussion. But see how it says like MPG, we budgeted this much, we spent more in the MPG area. The community improvement project, we budgeted 9,000, but we only spent 4,000 because we only had one project this year, right?
Yeah.
So, this is a nice little table here at the top. I like it for a budgeting standpoint. And then if you scroll down to the expenditures, you can just see what we spent on the regular storage domain. COVID, that shows how much we spent at Target, Windy, and then I got a bill from for the note taker for $311.85. But I'll get into that at the treasurer's report. And I don't know if there's anything else really note of. So MPG, everything's there. So if anybody has questions.
All right. Any, let me open the floor here. Any public comment or question on the MER? Panelists, any discussion? If none, Gabe, would you please call the vote?
All righty. Brandy,
Yes.
Hassan,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Jason,
Yes.
Miran,
Yes.
Becky,
Yes.
David Lasher,
Yes.
Lori, absent. Assad,
Yes.
Gabriel, yes. Isam,
Yes.
and motion passes.
Thank you. Item 10, Treasurer's Report.
Okay. All right. I have it here on the screen. We're doing good. We're under the 10,000 threshold. We're at $9,873.
You want to explain that a little bit?
Oh, yeah. Well, our budget was $45,904, which included some carryover money. And we've basically spent just under 10,000, which is the money that we can roll over with the city. So we can roll over anything under 10,000. So we're in good shape. We have 9,873. I got a bill for $311.85, which is for $311, which is for our note taker. So that's going to be processed. But other than that, we've been saving a lot of money with this Zoom meeting. It doesn't cost us anything to have these meetings. So I think that, you know, our budget was reduced from 42,000 to 32,000. So, you know, we also took a hit in the budget by $10,000. Honestly, the longer we continue using Zoom meetings, the better off it is for us in terms of expenditures. We can have, you know, we're going to lose a lot of discretionary money because when they reduce the budget, you know, but we should be talking about this coming up. You know, I'd like everybody to kind of have an idea of what their goals are for next year for projects or expenditures in the next fiscal year so that we can kind of plan the budget. But we'll get to that at the later motion. I just kind of divvied up the budget as best I could. But I think, you know, we're in good shape as long as, you know, we can plan ahead and get things approved. I think that, you know, we're in good shape. Everybody's taking a cut within the city, and we are no exception. So luckily we have that money rolling over, so it won't impact us as much because we didn't spend as much as we could have last year. Many other neighborhood councils spent everything or more. So we're actually going to have almost our full budget because we're rolling over funds. So that's pretty much the update. If anybody has questions, let me know.
Any questions for Jason? From the floor, anybody? All right, let me move on to the next item. Item 11. Jason, do you have the information on this?
Let me pull up the MPG, but I have the motion here and the.
I can pull up the MPG here to put it on.
Okay.
Let me do that. So let me stop share.
Okay.
Please remember to mute yourself if you're doing something that may make some noise. Thank you. Jason, here it is. Can you see it?
Yeah. Okay. So I think, go ahead. You want me to introduce the motion or?
Yeah, I mean, just this is just say who it is from and.
Okay, so this is for the preparedness fair that we've been doing for a while. This is an event that brings a lot of people from all over. You know, they've been improving it over the years. I guess they're scheduled to have it October 10th, 2020. So I'm not sure, you know, if there's somebody to speak from this NPG, but I guess maybe we want to know if there's a possibility this is not going to happen, or if it, you know, how does that all work out? But obviously we have COVID now, so that impacts greatly these types of events where you have lots of people standing in line, coming together. I mean, they can give you the numbers, but I'm sure there's thousands of people that come to this event every year. So
Let me see. Glenn Bailey has volunteered to say something, so let me ask him to speak. Go ahead, Glenn.
That's only if there's not someone else from the Southern California Preparedness Foundation.
I don't think there is. Nobody has raised their hand.
Okay. Well, I am involved. I'm not involved with the foundation, but I am part of the Valley Disaster Preparedness Fair team that helps organize the event. So I have been attending most of the meetings, and I can answer any questions. But let me just start by saying they are planning to organize the event at the Northridge Fashion Center in a social distancing manner by having possibly fewer of the exhibitors and moving them further apart. They are only going to have the neighbor councils come who have contributed money, so that would include you if you approve this. So there are sometimes there's other neighborhood councils who come from further away who don't necessarily contribute. I think most do, but some don't. Anyway, that would create some space, wider aisles. They're changing the entrance to be southwest towards Shirley Avenue, so that people would line up on the sidewalk rather than the parking lot. So a lot of strategies. Oh, and also try to get more square footage. They haven't achieved that yet from the shopping mall, so they have a bigger footprint. And and so they're working on that. It's a work in progress, but that is their intention.
Yeah.
And obviously, if there's a reoccurrence of COVID-19 that changes things from the way things look right now in terms of reopening, they'll have to redo that. But they have every intention of holding the event. They have had a conversation about the speakers. They usually have 4 to 5 very knowledgeable speakers on various topics, of possibly having them recorded and presenting that as well as a virtual type event. They are still looking at giving out the emergency prep kits as usual. The one thing that might have to be eliminated is the food.
Yeah.
So
Let me hold that thought, Glenn. Let me see what board members. Assad, you're up. Then Gabe. Then Becky.
Yes. Hi. Well, as the chair of the safety committee, we have participated the past few years in this. It's a great outreach event. Plus, we had the opportunity to get to the people to come in and get, especially those kits came in handy in the COVID. A lot of people didn't realize that there was actually in there N95 masks already. There was some sort of the gloves and a lot of items that came in handy in the COVID. Also, it's a great education for all of us, plus the whole community, because we learn skills that only certified people knows about it. But the leaflets and all that get you to encourage people to get in first aid and all that. I'm totally for it, and I think it's one of our main windows out to the world for outreach. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel.
Yeah, Assad covered some of them, but a couple of questions real quick. How much did we pay last year? Do you remember, Jason? Or how much did we approve?
500.
I think it's 750, but I'll have to double check.
It was 750.
Okay, my second question would be, if the event is canceled, we're funding it from this 2019-2020. Will we get refund 2020, 2021, or how would that work if for any reason the event does get postponed or canceled? Because I know the cutoff is, I believe, next week for to switch over to the new cycle.
Glenn, has there been any discussion about that?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
You're on.
Yes.
You're live in this discussion.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Yes, that's certainly a concern. So I think that the issue is if the event, so the way the NPG is worded, it says on or about knowing if there had to be a change of date because of a reoccurrence of COVID-19. If it's held during this coming next fiscal year, we should be okay based on that wording. However, if the event is totally canceled and not held at all during this next fiscal year, then that would be an issue in terms of refund. Obviously, the date for refunds for this fiscal year monies was this past Monday. So I think this is probably a little bit of uncharted territory. Obviously, we're all in this together because so many of the neighborhood councils in the Northwest Valley, all of them, as a matter of fact, are in the same boat. So, we would want to make sure that money came back for next year or got repurposed. And that's what the offer was made for some of the events that got canceled during the past several months. But again, a little bit of uncharted territory. And we obviously are on the same boat, and we're all working on this. It's not like this is an outside group of totally non-neighbor council people that are just trying to get the money.
Yeah.
So that's all I can say. Sorry, I don't have an actual.
That's all right.
Final answer.
Becky?
Thank you.
Okay, just two very quick things. First of all, one of the things that I think in light of the COVID pandemic, and also, the peace marches and the civil disturbances and the horrible things that we've seen, aside from the COVID, I think it's important that we remind people to be prepared for an earthquake. I think people are, they're so focused on the immediate that it's really important, because if we have another earthquake, we've got to have those tennis shoes under the bed in a bag and flashlights, etc. I think that our neighborhood council maybe want to put a little bit of more emphasis on that, as well as I know all the great work our neighborhood council does. The other question is, Bill Hopkins, how is he? Can we ask that question right now?
Glenn?
Yes, I'll defer to Isam how you want me to handle that.
Go ahead.
He is, and he said this to the group at our last meeting a couple weeks ago. He doesn't know if he'll be able to be there for the fair in October. Now that doesn't mean that. Well, he just doesn't know the condition that he'll be in. So the cancer has, without the additional treatments, it's reappeared. And so, so he just recently was in hospice, but he's still participating. He's still active. He's, at home, and he's be there in October, but just may not be physically as active, running around like he did last year. So if you want to send him your thoughts and prayers, absolutely. And also, he was like a one-man army, so it's going to take a lot of people to carry the ball. So if you know anyone, from your committee, emergency preparedness, disaster preparedness, love to have some assistance. It's really close to a number of the neighborhood councils, given its location at the Fashion Center for the Northwest Valley. So certainly, definitely can use some help to fill what he's not able to do.
Okay.
But thanks for asking.
Thank you.
It's important. Thank you, Glenn.
Miran, go ahead.
Oh, this is a very good turnout event, well organized. As had mentioned, this is also educational. We do have a lot of students and kids that participate. I remember, if I am not mistaken, that there was the fire last time occurred when the event was there.
Very good.
If I'm not mistaken. But
Yes.
I attended, and this is a very good event.
Okay. Brandy?
Yeah, this is more for Glenn, just to respond. If you're looking for help, hit me up. I'll help.
Great, thank you.
For financial reasons, and considering that we're crossing a fiscal year, wouldn't it be better to approve this in July, when we would be in the same fiscal year as the event, as opposed to put it out of this fiscal year and then deal with the crossover between two fiscal years?
Good point.
You could certainly do that. The difference between doing the beginning, the second week of June versus second week of July, as far as getting the money is, it's only a month delay. I believe we will need, I'll have to look at the NPG. It may need to be rewritten based on the dates there. The dates, not whole thing rewritten, just the date, a new NPG with corrected, with different dates. Especially if you're going to be below $10,000
Exactly.
with rollover,
Exactly,
including this $1,000, That's certainly a business decision that I would totally understand, even though I know they need the money for their, for running the event. But that is obviously a wise question, and something that is an option for you.
Thank you, Gabe.
Yeah, Freddie is still on, I believe. Can we refer the question to Freddie regarding the financials? I don't mind approving or voting on this topic today, as long as we know we're safe and a refund just in case something does not go right. I don't think we have to wait unless Freddie advises us that we have to wait.
I think I can chime in here. My understanding is that they have a year to spend the money. So if we approve it now versus a month later, it's just when the clock starts ticking. You have to expend the money within 1 year. That's my understanding. But Freddie, correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, sorry, because I'm on 2 meetings tonight. This is for this neighborhood purpose grant.
Let me clarify, Freddie. The question in front of us is: this is an event planned for October.
Yeah.
In the event that things happen and it does not happen, and there's a refund question, we are funding it from this year. If we vote on it now, it'll be expended next year, and then the refund would need to happen next year. Versus waiting till we do it in July, so it's refunded in the same year. Is there any procedural glitches that would make the former far more difficult than the latter?
All I know is that I asked that question about refunding to the city clerk, and they emailed me a response. Do you want me to read that to you? Because it was a question that was also on my mind. So I see a lot of heads shaking yes.
Yeah.
So the NC has 2 options to consider. One option is to vote on the organization repurposing the funds for the event next fiscal year, or your NC can request a refund from the organization. So if your NC decides to move forward with repurposing funds, we ask that you take the following steps. 1, have the organization provide your NC with a letter of how they will repurpose the funds. 2, your board must approve the letter at your June board meeting. 3, email the letter along with a BAC approving the letter for the funding rep to process. Please note that your NC will need to request a refund if the funds are not used next fiscal year, and the funds will go to the city's general fund. If your NC decides to request a refund, we ask that you take the following steps. 1, your NC will need to request a refund from the organization. 2, refunds must also be issued via a check made payable to the City of Los Angeles and mailed to 200 North Spring Street, room 224, Los Angeles, California, 90012. Refund checks received after June 8th will be returned to the city's general fund. Whichever option your NC decides, please keep me or the funding rep posted. If you have any questions, then they can do a conference call for more details. But I kind of asked that general question looking at like some of my NCs that had that kind of issue.
After June 8th, but we're June 10th now.
Yes, yeah, I asked it yesterday. I got the response yesterday. So basically any checks that would be happening after June, that date, would, no matter what, goes back to the general city general fund if you as an NC decide to request a refund from that organization.
So we're better to repurpose because it's going to go back to the city general fund.
So yeah, it sounds like it's better that we do it in July.
And one comment, because we had an issue with NPG we approved for the Northridge Hospital Foundation. I think it was $1,000 we approved, and it was an event in Woodley Park for domestic abuse. And I don't believe that event ever took place.
No.
And so
basically what you can do is either ask them to see how they're going to repurpose the funds you've already allocated and have a special meeting to approve that letter with a BAC, or ask them to give the money back, which will then go back to the city general fund. But that is up to your choice.
There's no point if it's going to go back to the city. Well, I mean,
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure you had all options. I didn't want to
Asad, what's up?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Isam. Let's try to push it to July.
Right, yeah.
And then when it's resubmitted in July, there is like sort of a paragraph or something to address that in case the event, if it's the event is postponed to another date, it's easy. The money goes with it to the other date. But
Yeah.
it's totally canceled, then they would address it. If it's canceled, A, B, C will happen. But
Just remember, sometimes events cost a lot of money to prepare for. If they got canceled, it doesn't mean that the money is still there.
right, I understand.
But it is what it is. So, yes, Jason, you're muted.
So on what you're saying, Isam, so is my perspective is there a virtual alternative? So in other words, have you guys been looking at, okay, we're going to have this event no matter what. If we can't do it in person, we're going to do it virtually, because you've heard from a lot of us here who I agree with, this is a very important event and there's a lot of benefit to the community, and we can figure out ways to do it, whether it be ways to get their bags or whatever, you know, grab and go or whatnot, you know, teleconferencing, and, you know, there's a lot of value to this event. So that's my question. Are you guys looking at doing a virtual event so that you can have this no matter what?
Whom are you asking?
Glenn, sorry, to Glenn.
They definitely have discussed the keynote speakers, the special presentations of having them recorded and being available virtually, regardless, even if there's an in-person event. They've also raised the possibility of like a grab and go as far as the bag, but beyond that, they have not been planning a virtual event like, say, the Congress of Neighborhoods plan, you know, moving ahead with that. So, you know, they just haven't gotten that far as they're you know, they are planning to do a modified in-person event. They haven't gotten to a plan B of a virtual event yet.
Let me open the floor. Just a minute, Gabe, if you don't mind. There are two on the floor who'd like to speak. Mr. Daniels, your floor is yours.
It's actually Judy.
Oh, hey, Judy.
First of all, I wanted to say that this is an event that's been happening for a whole lot of years. Chatsworth and Porter Ranch were among the original consortium of Valley neighborhood councils that started this years ago. And Bill Hopkins is the guy who started it. But the foundation is a known group. They're not going to run off with your money. They're extremely stable and extremely honest, good-working people. The biggest question I had was, unless I misunderstood, I did not see on the screen any of the financial papers. If you are at $9,800 and some odd dollars, or with the transcribing bill $9,500 that you're not going to spend this fiscal year, if this $1,000 is on top of that, then you're past the $10,000 rollover.
No, it's part of that.
So that's it. So this money is not, that would not put you over. Okay.
Correct.
But the main thing is that the foundation is going to work with anybody who gives them money, whether it's an NPG from a neighborhood council or any other source, to make sure that that they're being as honest and able to help all their donors as possible, because they plan this fair to keep going for many years and they don't want to alienate people or get a bad reputation.
No, absolutely. My question about it was merely about the unforeseen circumstances that would force them to cancel it. That's all it is.
Right, and the city of Los Angeles is about as messed up bureaucracy as anybody might ever encounter. But you know, if it came down to it, and you had to figure out if the foundation had a good reason to use that money for something else related to the, even if it was going toward a future fair, not next fiscal year, or to the general fund of the city of Los Angeles, that might be a discussion that the board might want to decide which would be a better use of that $1,000.
I know board members have questions. I want to let Patty speak. Patty, go ahead. Floor is yours.
Hi, it was kind of touched on, but as far as I remember last year, because the Salaridge was the day before the fair, that your council didn't attend because of that, because you were so busy dealing with what was going on. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Correct. Thank you. Glenn?
Yes, but however, 4,000 people did attend. I'm obviously Porter Ranch folks.
Right.
May not have been there in the same numbers, but even
Yeah.
though it was smoky, there were 4,000. What I wanted to say, just for your consideration, is I totally understand if you wanted to push it to July. We can see about the need to have a revised one. But here's another idea. Go ahead and approve it tonight, subject to confirmation of your options, you know, via the president or your treasurer with the funding program. You have until Monday, June 15th to submit it. And if you're not satisfied with the answers that you get, given the, you know, some of the questions you raised here, what Freddie read was a response that some of us have gotten. It's a template response. Obviously, they copied and pasted in something that included a deadline of June 8th, even though they replied on June 9th. So it's a template response. And if you approve this tonight and you find out that you, in fact, something else fell through and you're over the 10,000 and you want to, and you get assurances that this could be refunded or whatever, you know, you feel that you might get from funding between, you know, on Thursday or Friday, and then on Monday, you know, you've authorized the treasurer, the president, or both to go ahead and submit. You haven't lost anything by just voting to approve it. You're not obligated to submit it, especially if it's noted in your minutes that it was done with those provisions. That's just a suggestion.
We don't have any funds that are pending, so there's no reason for us to go over the 10,000. Is that correct, Jason?
Correct.
Yeah. You know, another option, and I know we have 3 raised hands, and I'll get to them quickly. Another option is to approve this. I know they need some seed money to get going on things. Maybe we can approve this at 500 now and do another one at 500 in July as an option. Gabe, you have the floor.
Alrighty. This is a very important event. I have gone to this event for quite a few years. I was going to say I'm in favor of tabling it, but once I heard Glenn's option of approving it or making a vote on it and not fund it if we don't have to, and re-bring the motion back in July, and then I heard what you had to say, and I'm for that as well. We can fund 500 now and bring another motion next month if we have to for the rest of it and move forward. So I'm open for all 3 ideas.
Thank you. Hassan?
Yes, same thing as what Gab said. I was gonna suggest we push it to July and make a decision then, hopefully for a full amount. But if you want to go with 500 now and then 500 later, I'm okay.
All right. Thank you. Becky?
My concern is that we're in uncertain times right now. We live in earthquake country. This is an event that serves the Northwest San Fernando Valley. I don't want to take any chances of us not getting the money for this event, and we don't know what's going to happen. I know that we have, you know, the budget and all of that. They could, I mean, if they slash the police department 1.5 million, they can slash us. And I would rather make sure right now that those funds go to earthquake preparedness for the San Fernando Valley. So that's just my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Miran?
It's simple. I think that we can do two parts, 500 today.
Yeah.
Later on July, that is more practical and more understandable.
Okay, Jason, what would you like to do?
2 parts is good.
I'll make a motion to approve $500 for the Southern California Preparedness Foundation to support the Valley Disaster Preparedness Fair scheduled October 10th, 2020.
I'll
You said, I second.
I'll second.
Sure.
I'll second.
We have a motion from Jason, a second from Assad. Without any further comments that I can see, please call the vote.
All right, Brandy.
Yes.
Hassan.
Yes.
David Balin.
Yes.
Jason.
Yes.
Miran.
Yes.
Becky.
Yes.
David Lasher.
Yes.
Lori. Absent. Sorry. Assad.
Yes.
Gabriel. Yes. Isam.
Yes.
And motion passes.
Thank you.
Break.
Let me do this. Go back to this.
I think they have the break now.
Juggling a few things. Oh, it's a 10-minute break. So,
So are we
Right on
done?
the dot.
A well-deserved break.
Are we done? Thank you. Bye.
10-minute break, if you don't mind. Come
25.
back.
Wait.
in-
FYI, there's a big fire in Lake Cairo.
At 8:25, right?
It's got the clock.
That's great.
All right,
Nice
there
clock.
it is.
Can we use that at the regular meetings too?
You bet.
Well, he has.
And thanks for considering all the options on the disaster fair. Much appreciated.
course.
I will relay that to Bill Hopkins and the team.
Yeah, let him know the rationale here, Glenn.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do not think asking for a refund is not if all refunds come to the black hole.
SM, you might want to unmute everybody because I can hear everybody.
Well, I mean,
Or
everybody
you
should.
might want to mute them, I said.
Yeah, everybody should mute themselves, but.
I'll do it for me.
All right, we are back on. And do we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9? Good. Let's go. Item 12. And I apologize, I didn't memorize. Okay, Assad and Miran. Assad, go ahead.
Yes. So this item is the discussion and possible action to request from the Los Angeles County.
Your
and the
volume is
city.
very low, Assad. Is it just me or?
Oh,
We're good.
is it better now if I get closer?
You're good.
Okay. Yes. Discussion and possible action to request from the Los Angeles County and the City of LA that they use any and all methods at their disposal to obtain from Southern California Gas Company and make public the full list of chemicals emitted from the Alicia Canyon gas storage facility during the SS-25 blowout, from ongoing operation and from subsequent leaks. And we have attachment C that goes along with the motion. So basically, the way it is, to date, Southern California Gas has not produced the list of the chemicals that the Porter Ranch community was exposed to. And that is including the contents of the blowout, the unscrubbed gas, the oily droplets that were aerosolized and inhaled. Also, the fracking fluids used in the facility and the fluids used in the 7 well kill attempts that all failed, where the materials was aerosolized and spread over the community. So in order for the scientific oversight committee now to determine the scope of the 25 million Alicia Canyon disaster health study as administered by the LA County Department of Health, and to properly identify areas to study the full list of all these chemicals, this list is urgently needed. So PRNC should request the list to be made available and accessible to the community and stakeholder. The PRNC believes that the information is critical and needs to be approved for all parties and of the LA County and the health, public health, Alicia Canyon health study, so that we ensure we have accurate and scientific-based health studies. So that this way we could know what happened in the past, what's happening to us now, and we can plan for a better monitoring system and better understanding of any, God forbid, a second blowout.
Okay.
And just to add here, the data we're requesting is all chemical and the format of whatever was the content. It's not getting into any specific health of any certain person. So we're not violating or requesting any data specific of residents. We're just asking the chemicals. Thank you.
Let me understand something. You are requesting that we make a request.
Yes.
How will the request be made, and will it be approved after it's prepared formally, or help bring clarity as to what the plan is here?
So Meron, you want to address it or you want me to talk?
For some, very simply, the community advisory group have adopted unanimously a decision, and this is other neighborhood councils.
Mihran, this is not about the CAG. I'm asking a question. You're asking the neighborhood council to take action. I am
Correct.
asking, what is the neighborhood council, what are you looking for from the neighborhood council to do officially, and how will that happen?
They are requesting to request from the county and Department of Health to give us the list of the chemicals and to release them. That has been a challenge, and that we've not been releasing.
I don't dispute that. What I'm asking is mechanistically, let me say it differently. Are you asking that I write a letter to the 3 entities and send it to them on behalf of the PRNC? And if you are, do you need that letter to come back to the board for approval as to its content, as opposed to just the implied request that's in this motion. So I'm asking about the mechanics, not asking about the intent.
Yeah, Isam, it's a letter by you. And I think in the description, we have enough language of where we feel you would go with it. But I don't think it needs to come back to us. It's a very simple request. And I think you could draft it and mail it unless the board feels differently. But I think you could send it as.
And I appreciate that. I'm just trying to get clarity on what, how this is going to go, because I don't want to do it in one assumption and have others have different assumptions. So Becky,
we have enough language that you can draft the content and the letter to send it.
I am just asking about the mechanics. I appreciate that. Becky, go ahead.
Well, don't we have a committee on our neighborhood council that addresses these issues? My question is, I'm wondering why only why there's 2 board members putting this motion together, why it's not from a committee, or, I mean, don't we have a committee? I walked outside just now, it smells horrible.
This came from the safety
I want to
committee.
know what the chemicals are, and I know that there was a big deal this week that they're not relaying that information to us, that they were told they didn't have to, but I think it needs to be done. But don't we have a committee on our neighborhood council that as a committee would come up with a letter and produce it to us so that we could all sign it? That's
Becky,
just a question. It's not a statement, it really is just a question.
The request came from the chair of the safety committee to put this motion in front of us, and that's Assad. That's why.
Oh, that's how it came to us. It's
Right.
It's not a committee on the gas blowout that affected everybody.
It came from the safety committee.
It's kind of broad. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Thank
That's
you.
what I know.
I have
And
3.
safety committee
Go ahead.
Did the safety committee meet on this and come up with this? And
They
do
had-
they have better, or is it just 2 people?
There has not been any committee meeting at this point. It came from the chair of the committee.
Gotcha.
I have 3 on the floor. Patty, I'm enabling your.
Okay, thank you. I
volume.
think I can explain it. So I'm a member of the Health Study CAG, but I'm speaking as someone who is COVID compromised because of a lethal cause medical condition. I know it is important for this health study that a comprehensive list of chemicals used in the wells is made available for the scoping and actual research. Without knowing what polytoxins have been released from the wells, a truly based health study cannot happen. Unfortunately, we need a subpoena. So that's what we're really trying to push, a subpoena which the Board of Supervisors can order. And this is to compel Salco Gas to provide that list. That's because the county council, who was asked by Department of Public Health to issue a subpoena, and unfortunately, for some reason, she's saying legal reasons. She's not recommending it, but the Board of Supervisors can issue it. So that's why we need these neighborhood councils to push the Catherine Barger and the other supervisors to issue a subpoena. And so I hope each of you realize how important this subpoena is so that we can gain an understanding as to what we're making sick and help our doctors help us. So thank you for considering this motion.
Thank you. Brian, you're next. Let me unblock. Hold on one second. Bear with me. Where did you go? Brian, you dropped back down. I'll open it for you. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, this is Brian Allen, and I'm with, as everybody knows, Granada Hills North. I'm hearing your question, Isama, with regards to the technique of doing this. As a council member, I can tell you that the right move on this, from my opinion, is that a letter be drafted to the city council, to the mayor, to the city attorney, asking them to advise the county to issue whatever means you feel is necessary, you feel is justified, to try to achieve getting the chemical list. As everyone I think knows, I'm also on the CAG. And the issue here is and everyone will tell you, anyone who's weighing in will tell you the same story, that this is important to the health study. And we're just trying to push for that. So the technique of doing that is to address, as the neighborhood council is set up to do, to address the city council, to address the city attorney, to address the mayor, and ask them to intercede to help us push the county to request this information in a strong way.
I got it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Patty already spoke. Let me ask Andrew. Andrew, your floor is yours.
Thank you, everybody. As kind of the chief architect of this movement, I'd like to just kind of chime in. Isam, I'm happy to hear that you guys are considering writing a letter. I want to kind of touch quickly on Becky's point. This issue was come about fairly urgently. I reached out to the safety committee to kind of get this ball rolling. The motion language has been provided to all of the relevant local neighborhood councils from Chatsworth across to Granada Hills in a very benign manner, which allows each neighborhood council to make, kind of have a white bread, if you will, motion and adjust it however you feel that this council would prefer. If it's to say that you're going to write a letter, then that would be fantastic. Granada Hills South added specific language about any and all means, including but not limited to subpoena, to their motion, which they passed unanimously last week. Northridge West added the same or very similar subpoena language last night when they passed it. So the language was benign on purpose to just spark discussion in your neighborhood council, and please feel free to make it as legal sounding as you like. Do that in the form of a letter if you would like to do that. But that is a little bit of the background of how this whole kind of movement or action came about. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anybody would have from the CAG perspective if needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori?
She's not here.
Just a second. Miss
Oh,
Lori Avazian, you need to unmute yourself. Lori? Okay, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead. No, you got it. There you go.
Okay,
Go
got
ahead,
it.
Lori.
Sorry, using a different device. Hi, everyone. Miss all of you. I'm also a member of the Community Advisory Group and a large member. For those of you who don't know me, I'm also a stakeholder in the Porter Ranch area. Just want to support the motion and give you a small example of why this is needed. There was a telephone call today with a subcommittee on the CAG that Craig, Andrew, I, and a few others belong to in terms of a cancer cluster study. And we're already finding that flailing around in the dark, not knowing the list of chemicals is affecting that. It could be made so much easier if the list of chemicals was known. So I know that all of us have a lot of knowledge and background in this, so I'm not going to go any further, but I just want to please implore you to vote for this motion, because we're trying to get all the neighborhood councils in the area that were affected by the blowout on board with it, and hope that it affects the county and the city in our favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Craig Galante, you have the floor.
Thank you, Isam. Welcome, board. As your nominated representative for the Porter Ranch Neighborhood Council, I just want to urge you and recommend that you fully support this motion. If you think about it just for a moment, science is, if it's garbage in, you get garbage out, right? So to get to the truth, the Scientific Oversight Committee and the eventual researchers that will get this project, they can't be bumping around in the dark. They need to have definitive answers, fact-based situations, so they can make science-based, really prudent observations and therefore help address what we've been exposed to and maybe how we should take care of ourselves. But this goes beyond, well beyond the health study. And I urge you to consider this motion and approve this motion for yourselves and your constituents. Because any one of us could be in our oncologist office at any point now or in the future, and you're having a discussion of your cancer. If you cannot articulate to that oncologist what you are exposed to, what chemicals and carcinogens you are exposed to, it could severely impact your treatment. So gathering this information has multi-purposes, and I think my strongest recommendation as your representative is for you to support this motion. Thank you for your time.
I have a question for our two representatives on the CAG. Has this matter been, well, let me rephrase that. The SOC has been created, is that correct?
Correct.
Has a similar action been solicited from the SOC as a group?
We have been, that's a really good question, Isam, and I tried to take that on, and without belief, I was blocked from reaching out to the SOC. We just don't have their contact information. But the few people that I do know, I've reached out to. And I think Dr. Nardella is on this call, and he is a member of the SOC. And I think it would be really prudent for him to weigh in from a science perspective.
Well, he's up next. I just wanted to understand clearly something from the SOC as a group would have a great weight as opposed to from individuals. That's all I'm asking.
Okay, so let me go down that path for a moment, and let me try to articulate what would likely happen. Don't forget, this is just the community wanting to know the truth. That's all this motion is. The Scientific Oversight Committee has yet to meet. We will meet briefly in a week, and then we will not meet again for a month. Right now, if DPH holds the agenda, they want to defer this conversation until July. Then you have to round up 17 people and have them come up with an opinion. We're talking about August or September before a unified message is sent. I don't think anybody on this board or in this community should wait that long. This decision is 100% in the hands of the Board of Supervisors, who should listen to the largest city in their county. And that's why this motion through the community is going to have the largest voice.
Yeah, and I wasn't asking as an alternative, but as a more forceful add-on. But I appreciate
all for them supplementing this, Isam. But I don't think it's prudent to wait for them.
Nobody's waiting. I agree. All right. Next, Dr. Nardella, I assume this is you. Go ahead, sir. You need to unmute yourself. Go ahead.
Hello, how are you? So I've been asked to weigh in on this, and I apologize. I think it's fairly obvious. It sounds like everybody's in agreement that if we do have the chemicals of concern, it will certainly make for a more robust and an accurate study, especially when we get to a conclusion in the study. And I think that's very important. Otherwise, you're spending $25 million, and if you come up with the results and you question the results, it's kind of like spending money and certainly not efficient. So all of that said, I'm very much in favor of getting the chemicals of concern. I have had talks with Paul Simon in regards to this. The SOC has only met one time. It did not have it did not have all participation from all members. This was not addressed. An overview was given. They're calendaring a second meeting. What did occur is a subcommittee that is following the CBC and also interfacing with the KEC cancer database. In those subcommittees, this did come up. There's obviously no motions made or opinions made. And so it's not formalized. I'm sure that will occur down the road. But as Craig said, I think that they have time to get these now before we enter into the evaluation of what went on in Porter Ranch, which I think there are a lot of members still trying to understand the impact of this and what occurred. So all of that said, I would just, as again, the SOC representation for the community, I would say that this is imperative to have this information.
Thank you. Brandy, you've been waiting patiently. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Now we can, yes.
So I've been banging on this drum for a while. No equivocation. I'm 100% behind it. The one thing I would like us to consider is the question of if they are capable of getting a hold of the list of chemicals, but due to things like the trade secrets federal status, if they're not able to make it public, but they're able to get a hold of it and thus act on it, I just want to make sure whatever wording we put in place doesn't lock off the opportunity for them to get a hold of the list and then act on it, because we ensure that they have to make it public when they may not be able to do both things. So whatever wording we put into this, ideally 100% we should make it public, but in the worst case that we can't, but we could still get it without that. I just want to make sure we don't lock off our opportunities.
Okay. Craig Galante.
Thank you. So Brandy, that's a fair question, and maybe I would think you ask for it, and they're going to let you know whether or not it's going to have to be remain confidential or not part of the health study. So I think you should err by leaving it in, but I welcome others' thoughts. As far as the mechanics, I think you're very prudent to think about what the mechanics are down the road. My only suggestion is, because there's a level of urgency, we do want to move quickly and be agile, is that I suggest that you do have plenty of language to borrow from, draft a letter, and then I would suggest a small committee made up of the health study representatives and Assad, because he brought this motion. The four of us just have a moment or a chance to review the letter and finalize it, and then you can do as you wish, if you wish to review it with the board or not. But I think that would be prudent, to that it maintains the language that is effectual to this issue. And the last thing I want to point out, Brandy, is the subpoena power is unique to the county and the Department of Public Health, because it can pierce the veil of proprietary and secret sauce that the SoCalGas claims that they have. And the reason they can pierce it is because it's a public health issue. No other plaintiff attorney has that ability. So this is unique with the county, and why it's so important that they exercise this authority. Thank you.
Thank you. Assad?
Yeah, so just to add here on Becky's question. So basically, the whole concept, of course, is being within the CAG. Mehran and Craig and Andrew been working on it for a long while, and then it became a part of where we feel, for the safety of the neighborhood, we would have to come in with this request. But, you have Mehran, my co-person on the motion, and Andrew and Craig is asking for a very basic, which is the list. And with this list, we can make our Porter Ranch more safe. Because if we understand what the threat, then we can do something about it. It's no different than when we're preparing for earthquakes or fires and all that. This is the same thing. We would like to know what we might face. And I think, I would like to, at this time, thank the CAG for all the extensive work they've been doing. They are, lifesavers.
So,
Mehran, you have anything to add, Mehran?
I'd really like to move it forward if we can. Andrew, that's all right. I'd like to move it forward. Assad, you
Yes.
have a motion. Do you want to amend it to state explicitly that you are requesting that I prepare a letter and send it, or do you want it to just be implied?
Well, I'll put the question back to you. Would the implied work for you, or do you want me to put it out?
The content of the letter is being voted on, and I'm just asking about the mechanics. So I don't need a vote on the mechanics as long as it's understood that that is how it's going to happen, that I will prepare a letter and submit it, and it's not going to be a surprise to anybody. That's all I'm asking.
Mehran, you're okay, right?
I'm
Yeah.
okay, yes.
Yeah. So we'll leave it as is, and it's implied you're gonna do the letter and proceed with it.
All right. Guys, I need to move. I need to move on. I have the motion.
Second that, Gabriel.
Gabe is seconding. Can we call the vote?
Yeah, but
Just a
wait.
second. Becky, go ahead.
Once a second is made, you have to open it up for discussion.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm just asking, why doesn't the person who is making the motion write the letter? Because there's nowhere in the motion that says you have to write it. They're making the motion. Don't you think they should write it? I mean, I don't care if you sign it. I don't have no problem with that, but I'm just a little confused that it seems like there's this whole big plan, and the neighborhood council, you know, our chair and two people are making the motion, and you're going to write it, and you're not part of the whole thing. Why doesn't Assad and Moran write the letter and send it? I don't know. I'm a little confused about the process. That's all. I want the letter written. Don't get me wrong. I'm just a little confused about the process.
So let me try to reply.
Do it. It takes our power away.
Let me try to reply. Let me try to reply. There is no right way and wrong way. There's no correct and incorrect way. I asked if they wanted me to write the letter and said yes. If they said no, they would write it. I really don't care. I just needed to know, how is this going to happen, instead of leaving this meeting with an uncertainty at who's doing what. So I'm just trying to get to a specific actionable item.
So do you need to amend the motion so that you can write the letter? I mean, do we have to put that in the motion? That's my question. I agree the letter needs to be written, but how do we amend the motion to make that happen? That's it. I know, because committees are supposed to, I don't know, it needs to be written, but maybe we have to amend the motion saying you're going to write it. So I
can amend it, Isam, if you like.
Go ahead.
Okay. Discussion and to authorize the president.
So are you amending it, Assad?
Yeah, I'm going to amend it. So I'm going to say, all right,
okay.
Ready?
That's all.
Okay. So basically, I'm going to remove the words "and possible," and I'm going to say discussion and to authorize President Isam Najim to request, to write a letter to request from the Los Angeles County, and all remains the same.
Okay.
Second that again.
So we have a revised motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board?
Who seconded it?
Gabriel.
Gabriel.
Let's move on, guys. Call the vote, please.
All right, Brandy.
Heck yeah.
Hassan. Can't hear you. Hassan?
Yes.
Perfect. David Balin?
Yes.
Jason? Can't hear you. Was that a yes? No, I couldn't hear it.
He abstained.
Abstained.
Got it. Miran?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
David Lasher?
Yes.
Lori is absent. Assad?
Yes.
Gabriel? Yes. Isam?
Yes.
The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Andrew and Craig, we needed to move. I'm going to lower the hands if you don't mind. Let me move on to the next item. Where am I? Hold on.
Who knows?
Item 13. Discussion and possible action, submit a letter to the state, county, and city urging them to initiate the work on the community air monitoring system. I had yet another conference call with the attorneys representing the three entities last week. I asked for an update, and the update was we are working on it. So I said, you know, that was the same update last time, and I would have liked to, you know, keep the conversation going, and we will, but we need to put it in writing and submit it. So I have prepared a letter that is attached to this motion, and if anybody does not have it in front of them, I'd be glad to put it on the screen and share it, but the letter is there. And so the ask is to authorize the submittal of that letter to the three entities.
I'm going to second the motion. Move forward.
Okay, so I have a motion from me and a second from David. Let me open the floor. Patty, you have the floor.
Just wanted to ask to add one thing to this letter, else it's wonderful, is the letters BTEX, because I think we need to make it very explicit that that's the type of monitors we want. So thank you for all your hard work and trying to push this along. Thank you.
Letter, Patty, just to let you know, the settlement agreement explicitly states that is methane, BTEX, and other chemicals.
Right. I just want to, just so that they don't come back and say, oh, we can't do the BTEX because it's too expensive.
No, yeah.
So I always think that we should always put that in every communication. That's all I'm asking.
Okay.
Anyway. Oops, lower hand.
Sorry, bear with me here for a second. Lori, you need to unmute yourself and then you have the floor.
I wanted to thank you, Isam, and the rest of the board for continuing to try and pound on this issue. Seems a little bit ridiculous since it seems that everything else in the settlement has already been dispersed and worked on. So thank you. In full support. Let us know if you need anything from the community or the KEG to help you with this issue.
Thank you. Just 1 second. Who else is here? Lower hand. Panelists, I have Becky, then Assad. Go ahead, Becky.
Do we need to just change the motion to say that you're going to write the letter?
The letter is already written.
I understand that, but it's not stated in the motion.
The motion is to submit that letter.
Discussion it, but what letter? To submit a letter, but not the letter that you wrote. I don't want to take it out.
I understand.
I want to know what the specific letter that maybe put your name on it or something. That's all I'm saying.
So let me respond. All our motions include a motion. Whoever is, can you please mute yourself if you have background conversations? Thank you. All our motions have a motion sheet and attachments to it, and it's referring to that attachment.
I understand. I just wonder if it carries more sock with it if it has your name on it as our president. That's all I'm saying.
That is what the letter has.
Okay, I know, but the discussion and possible action to submit a letter. Okay. If you've got it covered, you've got it covered. No. It's good. It's okay. It's just a question. I'm not upset. Just a
Assad, go ahead.
Yes, so the letter in attachment D, it's very specific and it's right to the point, and I think it's well written, and I'm totally for it, and I hopefully we get a response and an answer, an action item on it quickly from whoever receives it. Thank you.
All right, any other comments, questions? All right, with none further, would you please call the vote?
Yes, Brandy.
Yes.
Hassan? Hassan?
Yes.
David Bailey?
Yes.
Jason Hector? All right, Miran?
Yes.
Becky?
Yeah.
David Lasher?
100% yes to this great letter.
Lori is absent. Assad?
Yes.
Gabriel, yes. Isam?
Yes.
And motion passes.
Again, if I may ask,
Isam, can you
please,
mute
there's,
everybody? Can you mute everybody? Because it's ridiculous.
I understand. That's why I was just going to ask, if you please mute yourselves unless you're speaking, please. All right. Item 14. This is Jason. Would you please introduce your motion?
Okay, so this is a motion in regards to the motion Nuri Martinez presented, which instructs the CAO and CLA with assistance from the mayor to identify 100 to 150 million of cuts from the Los Angeles Police Department. It also instructs them to find recommendations on reinvesting these funds back into disadvantaged communities and communities of color. So this is a CIS, and we're looking to bring some of these redistributed funds. You know, the mayor has basically said that he's working to secure 250 million to make investments in community programs. So we know they're proposing a portion of it to come from LAPD. And the problem is that those cuts are going to impact us greatly here in Porter Ranch, in our neighboring communities, and we want to see that money be reinvested into support the youth of all of our communities here in the North Valley. So, you know, Granada Hills, you know, so we have access, so children in our communities have access to various youth programs. The way the motion from Martinez is written, it says reinvesting these funds back into disadvantaged communities and communities of color. So it seems to me that unless we're a community of color or we're a disadvantaged community, that we are not going to get, we're going to suffer the loss from the money from the police budget cuts, and we're not going to see any of that money come back in the community. So, you know, I was struggling with this. You know, I think we have a platform and we need to contribute to the conversation of everything that's going on. And so I pondered, you know, I want to bring a motion for other things, but this is what I came up with when I was looking at what the city council is proposing. So it's very important. Budget advocates spoke, but this is an important issue. And, you know, as a budget rep, I put this together and I'd like to, you know, hear some input. I think things can be added to the letter, but the overall point is that we need to have more youth programs within this North Valley region. I feel like, you know, we're Porter Ranch, but we're all of, you know, Granada Hills. So there's a lot of a lot of work that Recs and Parks can do. I hope did everybody have a chance to read the CIS? I hope you can read it, and if there's any suggestions or comments.
Just tell us what CIS stands for. I know what it does, but for those listening.
It's a community impact statement. So, you know, budget hearings are taking place, and this council file will come before the city council. But what that allows us to do is to present our CIS in front of the city council in the committee meetings as well. And so, you know, I look forward to hearing everybody's input, and, you know, I'm very much open to suggestions, but I wanted to have a starting point where we can begin to have this conversation and figure out what we as a neighborhood council can do with our platform. So thank you.
Is there a second?
I second.
SM, you're muted.
Is this a discussion item or just a motion?
The discussion?
Is
It's a
that it?
motion. It's a motion to file CIS.
And it was seconded, and then that opens it up to discussion.
Okay, it's a motion.
And I
Becky,
second it.
all right.
Now discuss.
Assad, anything you want to say?
Yes, so basically, I'm for the motion because, I mean, I'm for Porter Ranch and all that, but in my mind, there is still a question. David Lasher touched a little bit on it. The controller touched a little bit on it. The whole city budget is facing a cut. Everybody is getting July 1st, 10% furlough. So whatever your hours, 10% is gone. Your 10% of your paycheck is gone. The budget, everybody keeps saying LAPD is getting 150 million, but we don't really understand what part of the 150 million is missing. Their budget was going by increase of 127 million for bonuses and other training classes and all that. So if you went up by 127, you went down by 150, then it's not really you're getting 150. But reallocating that into other programs and all that, it's feasible. Plus, I know and I feel that for our LAPD and our captain and our SLOs, and they are the ones for our safety, especially for me, safety committee. But before we make judgment on where the budget cuts are going and all that, we should really understand. I wish the controller would have addressed more of how the mechanism of the 150 and where the 127 goes and all that, but we didn't get an answer on it. But this motion, I'm for it, and I support Jason totally.
Thank you. Becky, you're next.
Okay, as I just want to say, community policing started in Porter Ranch. And it started around 1990. And if you drive around the streets and you see a neighborhood watch sign that says Porter Ranch Operation Protect, it stands for Porter Ranch Organized to Eliminate Crime Together. We wrote the community policing manual. We created CPAB. We created the volunteer surveillance team. This community is very supportive of our police department. We have community police academies. We have a great relationship with our police department. We reduced crime the first time we had a meeting in 1990 by 82%. We're not going to reduce crime in Porter Ranch by cutting the police department, just slashing it. I know things have to be cut across the board, but they shouldn't just be picking on the police department. Everybody's got to cut. I took a 50% cut in pay and I'm working, and a lot of other people did too, but that's not the way to do it. And what I'm saying is that we have to look at the big picture, because I'm going to tell you, Porter Ranch will get hit first. And the Northwest San Fernando CD12 will get hit first, and they will take police officers from our division and put them in other places in the city. I'm a senior citizen. I'm over 70. No one called and asked me if I needed food. You know what? My point is, it's not going to come to us. We're going to suffer. We're going to have follow home robberies, home invasion robberies. We have to be very careful with this. And I think that, you know what? We lead the way. The United States and the world has used our community policing manual that we wrote here in Porter Ranch throughout the world. So I think we need to just think about this very carefully. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Brandy, you're next.
So I'd like some clarification, Jason. So from a reading of the actual motion documents, sounds a little different from what you're saying. Is it the case that you are asking that these gang reduction and city park programs simply be available throughout the city, or that they be equally distributed regardless as to affluence of the community?
The last part, explain to me well, I think
Okay.
the idea, the problem is that we don't see these programs in the North Valley for the most part. You know,
Well, I mean, there's programs here for kids.
I'm talking about a specific program. I'm talking about
The gang
the
one.
mayor's office of gang reduction and the things they're doing with recs and parks. I'm talking about but I'm open to adding things like what Becky was suggesting regarding, you know, investing in community policing, and you know that so that's why, you know, if you want to add something to this CIS, the idea behind the CIS is to ask for these investments to be citywide, because this is a citywide problem. You know, we need to do things in a way that's fair, and I just feel that the motion we're asking to, we would support it if they amend it to make programs available citywide. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it should be available to the degree they can make it available within recs and parks, utilizing the rec centers to do various programs. Recs and parks is a key, but if there's other things that you'd like to add, then I'm open to that. But that's one idea.
I think the key question here is in what we mean by fair, because if you've got a community on fire and a community that's fine, you don't give both communities the same amount of fire hoses. You give the one that's on fire most of the hose and a little bit to the one that's fine.
Can I refer you to the last sentence? So I'm saying here that this amendment does not preclude investments in disadvantaged communities and communities of color.
Right.
So
That's not what she's saying. That's
we
not what
can't
she's
do
saying.
both.
Yeah, I'm not saying that you're trying to preclude it. What I'm saying is I'm trying to understand if what you're asking for is that if it's $5 to Crenshaw, it's also $5 to Porter Ranch and $5 to whatever, or is it okay for the community that needs it to get 90% and a community like ours that needs less to get 5 or 10%?
Yeah, that's beyond our, you know, job.
Yeah, it's not that specific.
We're not that's not up to us. They're going to decide, but all we're advocating for our community. That's what we're doing here.
And that's fair. We want to advocate for our community, but not at the I just want to make sure we're not doing so at the expense of others. The point of Martinez's motion and a lot of the actions is to recognize that we have real suffering in certain areas that is not as prevalent in other areas, and we need to make sure that we're taking care of the suffering first.
Well, there's a lot of state legislation that already does that. So
well, let's.
We're getting off topic.
Yeah, everybody's. You know, we all have different opinions about these things. I'd like to say, you know, we're going to vote on this. We know what we're going to vote. The reality of it is, this motion, with all due respect, is a little tone deaf, because what is driving this whole issue of the money shifting is a far greater issue than just allocation of funds. So it is, they will not touch it. It's moving the way they're going to move it. We can put a CIS. That is our job. Whether they accept it or not, or do anything with it or not, is their job. But let's be realistic. What is driving this issue is far greater than anything we're discussing here, and it has zero chance in hell in making a difference, but it is our job to submit it. So we have a motion, we have a second, we had our discussion. I don't see public comments. Anybody from the floor who would like to speak? I'm going to wait for 10 seconds to see if anybody raises their hand.
Isam, Becky is telling you she's changing equipment. That's why she's off the screen. She just sent a message.
All right. So with that, Hassan, final comment, go ahead.
Just quickly, so I agree with you, Sam. We have to do our part, but at the same time, I think some of us, or hopefully all of us, we see what's going on around us, and we cannot really sit in indifference of not saying it. So with so many words of what we can say, we should say what we believe in, and how the funds should be redistributed, and perhaps not being selfish, necessarily looking at it from a Porter Ranch, although we represent Porter Ranch, but there's a bigger picture out there that we are not separated from the rest of the city. So if one part of the city suffers, eventually we will suffer. So
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Can you please call the vote?
Sure. Brandy,
No.
Hassan,
yes.
David Balin,
Abstain.
Jason,
Yes.
Miran.
Abstain.
What?
Abstain.
Becky?
Can you
Absent?
repeat the motion because my device died out and I had to go set it up. I didn't hear the whole thing.
It's what's on the screen.
Is it the same as what's on the agenda? Because it's not coming up on my phone.
Yes.
I'm going to abstain.
David Lasher,
Abstain.
Lori, absent. Assad,
Yes.
Gabriel, no. Isam,
No.
we got 3 yeses, 3 nos, 4 abstain, 1 absent.
Can I change my vote rather than abstaining? I'd like to place a no vote.
Is that allowed, Isam?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think she can.
That's fine.
We can't. Do our
Freddie?
new bylaws go into effect yet?
It's not in the bylaw.
No. Not yet.
Is Freddie still here?
I vote no then.
Sure, go
Freddie's
ahead.
raised his hand. Bear with me 1 second. Let me
All right.
let him in. Freddie, where are you? There you are. Go ahead, Freddie.
Yes, sorry, I heard my name. What was the exact question one more time?
We had a tied vote because of the abstentions, 3 and 3, and Becky asked if she can change her vote to a no.
So do you want to do a revote?
No, I'll just leave it as it stands. Don't worry.
Leave it
Thank
as
you for
what?
checking. I'll just leave it as an abstention.
It'll
As
still
an
be
abstention. So we have a tie.
Okay. And your bylaws, you do not, which is currently under review. Currently, the bylaws as it is, does it state what exactly abstentions are considered as?
The abstentions do not count towards the vote. So right now, look, guys, we have a tie. We do not have a majority vote on the motion, and therefore the motion does not pass.
I would agree with that statement.
The motion did not pass.
Okay, thank you. Item 15. This is Hassan. I think this is you.
Yes.
It's me, Asad.
The motion is to have a discussion and a possible action to submit.
What's happening tonight? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry?
Go ahead. No problem. Go ahead.
Miran,
Yes, sir.
please, we're in a public meeting. How
Go on.
about, can both of you introduce this motion somehow?
Go ahead. I'm not going to talk anymore. Go ahead.
Okay, Hassan, go ahead.
We would like to submit a motion which discusses an potential action on submitting a letter to the mayor of Los Angeles, Garcetti, expressing our objection to the proposed budget as described in Council File 200600 and support our support for a Council File 20048, which classifies essential emergency services and any effort to reduce the greenhouse gases as toxic emission as a act of emergency service, and therefore the budget for it should not be reduced. That is is the motion. After we submitted, we had some discussion with you and whether this should be a letter or should be a CIS. We have attached, which has been also part of other neighborhood councils. They have prepared this and for submission. So right now we have a letter ready to go. It can go from yourself, our president. You basically need to read it. You agree with it. If it passes, we can submit this and it goes directly to the mayor. Or we can agree that these are good things to say and perhaps we should file a CIS, and we could do that too because that would go and support the files that are already there. So I'm open to that discussion.
Do you guys know what the status of this file is?
Last time I checked, they're active. These are all related to the budget and budget reallocations.
Okay. This is a discussion. Anybody? Brandy, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, the irony here is that, as we just talked about with the last motion, we're trying to reinvest in disadvantaged communities, and they are far more likely to be surrounded by toxicity than non-disadvantaged communities. So by eliminating a department that deals with this issue, we're actually continuing to perpetuate harm toward the communities we're trying to help in the first place with some of these cuts. So I feel like hopefully this can be an area where we can point that out to the city to remind the mayor's office that this is a huge problem in the communities they're trying to help right now, and then make sure that the office doesn't get eliminated.
Okay, thank you. Board members, any other comment?
I can, oh.
Glenn, I'm going to the floor. Glenn, go ahead. Glenn, you need to unmute yourself. There you go.
Got it. Just wanted to bring to your attention on your backup documentation is apparently correct, but on the agenda, you're missing a 2 at the end of the second council file. The way I'm comparing what your backup documentation, yeah, it should be 20-0482, where you list the 2 council files.
Yes, you're correct.
And I just checked on the status. It is still pending in the Public Safety Committee of City Council. It has not been scheduled for a hearing. It's referred there and it's pending. Thank you.
Thank you. Guys, you need to decide. Is for this, and this is for a board, do you want to keep it a letter or you want to make it a CIS?
Well, we should keep it a letter because I worked on this motion. I mentioned it to you both. We need to do a letter and we need to send a letter. That's how it's supposed to be. That's how every other neighborhood council is adopting it.
You know, Mehran, I really don't give a damn what other neighborhood councils are doing.
Well,
We can think on ourselves. So I asked the question. You feel it's a letter. Thank you for that. I am curious what other members believe.
Okay, no problem.
There's nothing wrong with the question.
I'm not saying nothing wrong. It's a letter originally.
My question to you guys, a letter that goes to the mayor is not a letter that is going to affect a city council decision. So I'm trying to understand how a letter to the mayor is addressing a city council file.
That's my opinion.
Hassan,
can you answer that question?
So what I'd like to suggest is that we send a letter to the mayor as well as filing a CIS on behalf of Puerto Ranch Neighborhood Council. Pretty much the same content, so it goes to both places.
Okay, that's
like to make
one
a
option.
motion
Well, hold on. We're still having a discussion. Hold on.
Okay.
David Lasher, go ahead.
I wanted to point out, outside of the correction to the lettering, it is 24 20-0482. Anything you should reflect that. The Greater Valley, Glen Neighborhood, and the Boyle Heights Neighborhood Council both submitted CASs this month on this item.
Okay, thank you. David Balin, go ahead.
Yeah, what we should do is send the CIS to the council and just have the mayor add it to the letter. Thought.
To the city council?
Correct.
Yeah, the challenge, David, is that the CIS gets submitted electronically through the system. So it's really, you can't copy it that way. You'd have to send it separately as an email or a paper copy.
Can we do both? Send a letter to the mayor and send it to
We
CIS?
can do whatever we want. This is a discussion item, and we're going to get to emotion after we think we have a good sense of how we want to do it as a group. So we can do it either way. We can do both. We can do either. We can do none.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Becky.
The gas company settled with the city of Los Angeles for X number of dollars with the mayor. How much of that money did Porter Ranch see? I think this is really an important motion. And I think that we have to know climate and emergency mobilization. I mean, we all went through it. And that, that's my statement.
Okay. So I don't see any raised hands on the panels or the attendees.
I'll raise my hand before we go to the.
Go ahead, Jason.
So the letter can come from the neighborhood council and be attached to both council files, and it could be sent to the mayor. So and then just identify the text of the CIS if you want to do both. That seems reasonable. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, let me ask the floor. Patty, you have the floor. Go ahead.
I'm a bit confused about Becky's comment about the city getting money from Salco Gas. Was this from the consent decree? Because that really didn't go to the city, but got distributed to the different programs. And I know that the county did get money from that criminal suit in 2016. So I'm just a little confused, but maybe it happened. But
well, what I'm asking is, did Porter Ranch see any of it?
Of
that
course
was the
not.
question. But you know way more. I know that, not being sarcastic, because trust me, you guys know way more about this than I do.
But yeah, but the idea is Porter Ranch got completely, and the whole area, the northern San Fernando Valley, was an afterthought, and they should have been given that mitigation money that went to the CalFARC program. That should have come directly here, and everyone from Antonovich, Englander, all these, public health, everyone said this money should be going, when it's finally decided upon, should go back to the community that got harmed. And so we know.
My point exactly.
I'd like to stay about the city council file question. So thank you, Patty, for that. Let me move on. Guys, we need a motion. What do you want to say?
So I'd like to say the motion is to submit a letter to the mayor and a CIS to the city council in support of the files with the correction of the file 200482. The rest of the text would remain the same.
Okay. Can I have a second?
A second.
Mehran seconded. Any further discussion? Without further discussion, call the vote.
All right, Brandy? Brandy?
So, sorry, my computer froze. I missed what the actual motion was.
The motion is to submit a letter and a CIS of the language.
Oh, yes.
Hassan?
Yes.
David Balin?
Hold on for a second. Hold on for a second. Hassan, did I paraphrase it correctly?
Yes, you did it correctly.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
No problem. David Balin?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Miran,
Yes.
Becky,
Yes.
David Asher,
Yes.
Lori's absent. Assad,
Yes.
Gabriel, yes. Isam,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you. Item 16. This is a discussion for the administrative packet, which needs to be submitted before the end of the fiscal year. I trust. Jason, would you please take the floor?
Okay. I hope everybody got it. Can you pull the administrative packet up, please?
Yes.
I
One
don't have
second.
it in front of me. Let me get
One
it
second.
as well.
Let me do that.
So I did my best to approximate where we are with everything. One thing I realized, our second signer is David. Everybody knows that. Oh, it's not on the screen here. All right.
Just 1 second. Just 1 second.
No worries. No worries. And then, so I put in, I think 9,500 I have for rollover funds. That's going to be page 8. And, let's see, start with the rollover funds right there. Stop. Okay, cool. So then I kind of reworked the budget given the Zoom meetings and everything we're doing. So I hope everybody had a chance to look through it. Let me know if you have any questions, but kind of scroll through it. Let's go down to outreach. So holiday party, giveaways, events. So 11,000. Election, I put 3,400. I mean, hopefully it'll be less, but NPGs, I think that's pretty close to what we spent this year, 4,500. It was 2,500 last year, but we went over, so I increased that. And then community improvement projects. So we have to fill in the blanks here on some of these things. I'm not sure what events are going to look like. And the retreat is a chance to discuss and refine the budget. And that's pretty much it. Everything else is business as usual. But hopefully we can have the retreat. If we approve this, then we're good on our timeline. We need to get this submitted before the end of this month. So we could probably have the retreat, early July or late June. But I think that's more of like a planning for us, so we can kind of strategize on what the goals are and ideas and put our heads together in our direction for next fiscal year. So basically we want to approve this so that we have something to submit to the city, so we don't get our funds, so we meet the deadlines, and then we can continue to refine it if necessary. So that's pretty much, I think, covers everything.
Jason, I'd like to plant the seed in your head to give some thought to the things that we pay for by credit card, to make sure that recognizing that your card will become obsolete at the end of June and you need a new card next year. Is that correct?
I didn't look at the expiration on it.
Okay, if
my
we can,
card? You
if
want me to get my card?
yeah, I just want to make sure that we don't have a dead zone at the start of the fiscal year where we need to pay something online and we don't have a card for it.
Isam, Lori has a card as well.
No, I know, but I don't know if both cards end at the end of the fiscal year. Again, I don't know.
I'll get my wallet and check the expiration, but
and this is really not about the expiration date on the card. It's about Dunn's, the city clerk's system. I don't know. I just want to plant the seed to make sure that we're good on that issue. We've had this problem before where we didn't have a card at the start of a year and we had to pay the mailbox or things like that, and I just want to avoid it this time. That's all. Just a thought on the side.
I don't think we'll have an issue. A lot of the stuff is like electronically, automatically paid on the credit card, so I don't see any reason why they would, as long as I'm not, as
All
long
right.
as you don't have a lapse in the treasurer or the cardholder position,
Okay.
I don't
Le-
see why we.
I know Glenn wants to say something, so let
They
me.
would, they would cut off the card if we had a lapse in the treasurer position, right, or something. They would cut off the card, I would imagine, for that.
Okay. Glenn, go ahead.
Well, yeah, you should look at when your card expiration. It's independent of the end of the fiscal year, but coincidentally, it could be. You know, it depends on when you got it originally. But just so you know, the card, it will not be active. You can't charge anything after June 20th, and then theoretically, and last year they were pretty good at it. And it's not done. It's city clerk funding program.
Right.
July 1st, my card. I'm the card holder. It worked on July 1st or 2nd. It was
okay.
Very good. It was very, I think July 1st was on a Sunday or something, and so, but I think the next working day it worked.
All right.
The other thing I just wanted to ask Jason, he's going to get his card. At the very top of the screen share about the income, I just think this is a Jason question. Last year, at the revenue, where it talks about rollover. So last year, the city clerk was very specific that we were only to submit the budget based on the allocation that was approved, which is the 32,000. Hey, Jason, this is a question. Did this form come with a place to put in rollover funds? And the reason I ask is that last year, the city clerk instructed neighborhood councils to only submit the June budget submittal as of the allocation, which
Right.
which was 42 last year, 32 this year, and they told us to wait until August when they had the exact to the penny rollover amount and to revise our budget at that point.
I think they changed the form now to allow us to put that figure in. I think last time you couldn't put anything in that box.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm just estimating. I think they want us to do our best to estimate, which we have done.
Yeah, great. That definitely is a change of procedure. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
And we're good on
to
the card. I'm not going to say the expiration date on the meeting, but we're good on the card as far.
All right. And I really didn't want to get into it here. I just wanted to leave the thought with you, but we're good.
We're good.
Let's board members, anybody, any question, thoughts on this? With the understanding that this is being submitted to satisfy the deadline, but we will discuss it and massage it at the retreat if we ever have one.
I think it looks great, as is.
I'll second it.
Well, it's not a motion yet, but I appreciate that. And no further discussion? Okay, can I have a motion? Jason?
Okay, I'm sorry. Hold on here. I lost my sheet here.
Here's the
Motion to
motion.
approve the budget.
Motion to approve the fiscal year 2021 administrative packet.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Call the vote.
All right, Brandy? Is she here?
Yeah.
Mute.
Yes, yes.
Okay, Hassan?
Yes.
David Balin?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Miran?
Yes.
Becky?
Yes.
David Lasher?
Yes.
Lori? Absent? Assad?
Yes.
Gabriel? Yes. Isam?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And with that, congratulations. You survived the motion.
Yeah.
Without
Yes.
objections, meeting is adjourned.
Yay. Thank you very much.
Thank
Have
you
a nice
all.
evening,
Sam.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Safe.
You all.
Good job, everyone.
Goodbye.
You too.
Oh.